Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock, and it's April 10th. By the way, just want to mention, because it's been on my mind today, you just got 5 days to file your taxes if you hadn't already done so. 5 days. Taxes.
Taxes?
Yeah. You know, yeah. I had to go see my accountant today. So I've been thinking about that a lot. Came out okay, though, so,
Well, that's good.
It could have been a lot worse, as they say. But you need to think about that because you don't want to be late, or you need to file an extension if that's an option open to you. The economy is one of the top things that people talk about when they decide how they're going to vote. Your wallet, how you're doing financially compared to the way you were, let's say, when Donald Trump was in office. That's going to be the comparison that everybody draws. And today, the Biden administration has been hoping that they could get inflation under control so that they can perhaps drop interest rates sometime, later this year. I think if they had hoped that, they were probably disabused of that notion today because a very important inflation report came in today, and inflation is at 3.5%. It has gone up, not down. As they say, inflation is sticky like jelly or honey, just except not sweet. And so, when you have inflation like that, the Fed has to decide whether they're going to lower the rates. And I think at this point, the way it feels is if they do lower rates later this year, and I'm beginning to believe they may not and probably won't. But if they do, it's not going to be because the data is driving that decision. They're going to do it because it's a good political decision for Joe Biden. Because when you look back at how inflation has robbed you of the things that you want to do for your family, it's shocking how much prices have risen since Joe Biden took the oath of office. Let me just run through some numbers here. Figuring in today's new 3.5% inflation report, and then looking back to the day that Joe Biden took the oath of office, this is how much certain things have gone up since he became elected. Gasoline has gone up 47.8%. Groceries overall have gone up 21.1%. Eating out, 21.4%. If you have an infant and you need to get baby food has gone up 30.5%. Pet food, if you got a dog, you got a cat, some kind of critter, pet food has gone up 23.7%. If you are renting, your rent on average has gone up about 21%. Your electric bill, your utilities, your electric bill up 28.3%, natural gas bill up almost 27%. Airfare, if you want to fly somewhere on vacation or just because you need to fly for family reasons, airfare has gone up a whopping 32.7% since Joe Biden took office. And so you say, well, okay, but have wages gone up? Well, when you figure that in, real average weekly earnings have effectively gone down almost 4%. So you got things across the board that are going up, 20, 30, 40%, and then you have your wages have effectively gone down when you figure in inflation and all that, nearly 4%. You're not keeping up with inflation. So what is happening? Americans are getting squeezed, and they feel it, which is why I think this report today was pretty devastating for the Biden reelection effort. It really is. Stocks fell today more than 400 points on the Dow and 136 on NASDAQ. S&P down about 49. We'll get you the complete report a little bit later. But that's the reaction to the markets. They look at this and they go, well, if we had any hope of interest rates going down, which is, of course, a very desirable thing for most people, it doesn't look as if that's going to happen. And see, the problem right now is when you get squeezed like you're getting squeezed, with prices going up and effectively your your wages going in the opposite direction. It means that you have to figure out some way to make ends meet. For a lot of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck and really are having a real struggle here to put food on the table and a roof over their head and clothes on their backs, they have to turn to credit cards. And when the interest rates are high, credit cards, are not the way to go. I mean, really is never a way to go for your day-to-day expenses anyway. But one way or the other, that's what people are having to do just to make ends meet. A lot of people, maybe they're going to their 401k and they're taking some of that out. They're not saving as much as they were because they can't afford to put any money back. It takes everything they got just to get across the goal line each month and not have them come and, and try to throw you out your house. So this was highly anticipated. According to the Wall Street Journal, Wednesday's report had been hotly anticipated because Fed leaders had been willing to play down stronger than anticipated inflation readings in January and February as reflecting potential seasonal quirks. But a third straight month of above expectations inflation data erodes that story and could lead Fed officials to postpone anticipated rate cuts until July or later. In fact, I've read some that suggest probably it's a possibility, I would say, not probably, but a possibility not at all this year. Fed officials have been trying to achieve the so-called soft landing, in which inflation slows without a sharp downturn in economic activity. And to do that, some officials wanted to cut rates preemptively before the economy weakens notably. The latest report sets back that effort by depriving them of a credible justification for cutting rates, and it could prompt them to hold rates at current levels, the highest in some 23 years, until they see more cracks in the economy. It's one of the weird things about the way the economy works that the big problem right now is interest rates, and the only way to get interest rates down is for the economy to do poorly. Bad news could bring you good news. But most people look at inflation as the real thing that robs people of their ability to live a good life because they can't keep up with the cost of living. So there you have that. These numbers are really not very good at all. And when you look overall, here's another thing. With inflation going up and the cost of goods, I mean, you know how it is. When something goes up, it very seldom comes down. All right, let's say it goes up quickly and comes down really slowly, if at all. The magic number to retire comfortably hits an all-time new high. A new study published by Northwestern Mutual found that the magic number for that Americans believe they need in order to retire comfortably hit, you ready for this number? 1.46 million this year, the highest level on record. You need 1.46 million, about $1.5 million. $1.50. No, it's a lot more than $1.50. The figure represents a nearly 15% jump from the 1.27 million that Americans said they needed in 2023, and that is outstripping the current 3% inflation rate in the country. Over the past 5 years, Americans' magic number has surged 53%. From 951,000 that folks said they needed in 2020, according to several financial services firms. So both by generation, both Gen Z and millennials anticipate they will need more than 1.6 million to retire comfortably. So if you're not making the right moves now, and it's hard to when things are so tight, it's really hard to put money back. I don't know what to tell you. And I remember that when Joe Biden took office and inflation ran up all the way to 9%, all you heard was, well, don't worry, we totally expect this to happen, and that this high interest rates are transitory. They're going to go up, and then they're going to come down, and everything is going to be fine. Remember?
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
It will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great deal.
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. It's highly unlikely that's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, etc., are high-class problems.
The number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
I mean, this goes on and on and on.
Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin.
If you want to get rid of
It's
inflation,
Putin's fault, yeah.
the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts.
Our inflation rates are lower than other nations in the world.
The inflation we're seeing is due to the pandemic.
When inflation hit a new high last week, the administration of President Biden called the numbers out of date.
I just want to say a number. 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation.
When I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon.
Yeah, they want to change the subject, all right. They want to change the subject because they don't want to talk about it. You know, I mean, honestly, this is going to hurt Democrats in a big way. As I said when I was talking to Matt Murphy a little while ago, the number one concern that most Americans have right now is immigration. The number two concern is always your pocketbook. I mean, usually that's number one, but this time around it's number two. And when you look at all of the issues that seem to be on the minds of Americans, the vast majority of those issues, people look at Trump more favorably than they look at Biden. They really do. But there's no way that you can say after today's number that this is just a blip, that, it's going to be okay. It's supposed to be going down, not up. It's absolutely the wrong number. So probably in the grand scheme of things, what we heard today in this inflation report probably has a bigger impact on the coming election than just about anything we've talked about in some time, because people always are concerned about their pocketbooks. And it's very easy for people to answer this question. Were you better off under Trump or under Biden? That's the real question that Americans are going to be asking themselves as they head to the polls. Are you better off under Trump or are you better off under Biden? And under any metric that you look at, from a financial standpoint, most Americans are better off, were better off back in the days of Trump and have had nothing but high costs and escalating inflation since Joe Biden took office. So 3.5 from a year ago in March, a really bad number in a key inflation report. We'll be joined a little bit later from John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. I'm sure he's going to talk about that as well, because it really has sent the market into another tailspin. And of late, the market's been doing that a lot. More down days than up days of late. We'll call it 20 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The weather is getting warmer. It means grilling season is upon us. If you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of those same flavors right at home on your very own grill. Take a walk down your local grocery store aisles, places like Walmart or Kroger, and look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. You'll likely see his famous fruit tea at your local grocery store, along with salad dressings and Johnny Fleeman's steak marinades. Johnny Fleeman's proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can use his marinade to enhance almost any dish, your favorite rice recipe, fresh vegetables, just about anything. So if your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. And for more information, you can visit johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they're always going to be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, No lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
At least 2 people shot and injured in a Philadelphia shooting here today. And the cleanup efforts continuing on the Baltimore Bridge. We'll tell you all about it 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, there's Mac Morey with all of your news stories. He has the news at the top and the bottom of the hour. Chris Webber is behind the glass over there, pushing all the blinky buttons, keeping things running down the track as there's and the trains are on time. That's his job. Keep me on schedule. That's his main job.
I need a whistle.
Yeah. Wilson, take a break. That's right. Yeah, so whatever it takes. Normally you just have to wave at me and circle your finger in the air.
That's right.
That means wrap it up, Wilson. You've gone too long. You're yammering too much. Listen, today I just want to mention again, as the 10th day of April, it's very much on my mind that tax day is just 5 days away. That's next Monday. And so if you haven't done your taxes, you need to get busy. This is one of those weekends where a lot of people will be doing their taxes. I went and saw my accountant today. Whew, dodged a bullet again.
They didn't tell you to seek counsel elsewhere.
No,
so you must be all right.
Huh? No. They.
I can't help you, Wilson.
The thing about it is you don't want to give the government too much of your money.
Oh, of course not.
I mean, you want to hold on to as much of your money as you can, but you also at the end of the year don't want to write a big check.
Right.
So I like it when they tell me I'm getting just a little bit of money back, or that I just have to write a small check.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it to zero, then you're doing it just right.
Yeah.
That's the way
nobody hits that.
No,
really.
never.
I mean, honestly. So as it turns out, I'm going to write a small check. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that. Could have
better
been
than a
lot
big
worse.
check, right?
That's right. Much better than a big check. happy to write this check and move on. And of course, there's big doings, and I haven't talked about this. Big doings in Watertown this weekend. You guys ought to come out to Watertown for the mile-long yard sale.
Oh, is that this weekend?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, they do it twice a year. They do it in the spring and they do it in the fall. And so this weekend is the big yard sale, and we get really excited around here for the mile-long yard sale, which is actually about a 12-mile-long yard sale.
Wow!
Because what happens is that the people who live along Highway 70 have figured out that everybody comes in from Nashville and gets off on 70 and starts going down to Watertown, going south.
Yep.
They have figured out that people are going to Watertown. Well, I'll just set my stuff out in the front yard and get rid of my stuff. And so it really, honestly, it's about a 12-mile long experience. And then you get down to Watertown and we have a main street sort of runs about a mile. And people turn out in droves. So they even bring the train into town.
Nice.
It's a train weekend.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people come. I don't know that I would, if I were going to go to a yard sale, I'm not sure that I'd want to go back on the train, because what if I really found something I wanted?
Yeah, that's true.
I got to haul it back on the train, right?
Yeah.
So that limits what you can carry back.
But maybe a good thing if you have impulse control problems.
Yeah, maybe so. And as always, you can't sell knives to minors.
That's an important rule.
There aren't many rules to the old yard sale. First of all, you have to check in and get your assignment of where you can set up your space.
Oh, so you can't just show up.
No, you can't just show up.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, if you're on the highway, you can if you got a yard, no one's going to stop you. But but when you're in Watertown, you have to check in and do it. And there's a lot of food trucks here, and everybody and all kinds of people trying to sell stuff. And I mean, it's like a little carnival. It's like a garage sale on steroids.
Yeah. Be a fun afternoon.
Yeah,
it is. It's fun to knock around, and Cabana wife and I generally walk down with the Grogu on the leash and do a little looking around, and I almost always come back with a little something. Last year, I've been kicking myself. Last fall, there was a guy who was selling Indian arrowheads. I mean, he must have had big displays of each one of them were at least 20 or 30 arrowheads.
Wow.
And he had a bunch of them. And I always thought, that's kind of a cool thing right there. And, he wasn't asking that much for them, and I sort of regret I didn't buy one, because, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because they all came from apparently this area.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I'd love one of those.
But there's all kinds of things going on. And, if you've never been to the mile-long yard sale, then I can tell you that, you need to do that. Then drop by the coffee shop and say hello to all the people over there, because, that's where the locals hang out. A good Mexican food place right downtown. There's a good Depot diner. That's a good place to eat. So it's a good experience. Come on out, and see what kind of thing you just can't resist. There's going to be something that's going to speak to you and say, "I must have that."
Can you haggle at this?
I was about to say, are you a negotiator? Yeah, I'd like negotiating.
Come on, of course
That's
you can
the
haggle.
best.
You never take the first price. That they offer.
Exactly.
That's just the beginning of the negotiation.
I'll give you 7.
I love to haggle. I do. So that's half the fun of it. And so that it'll be. I'll be down there. If you see me, say hello. Me and Cabana wife and Grogu be walking around at some point for a little while.
What time does it start? Like 7 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Early, I think. Usually.
They actually start setting up, the day before, like Friday. They'll be out and set up, and so you get here, they'll have stuff for you to buy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The early bird, usually gets the worm. They get all the best stuff that those professional yard sailor people will be out in force, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Get out there early.
That's right. And just remember, bring lots of $1 bills.
Yeah.
You don't want to whip out a 20.
Yeah, when you're paying a quarter for something.
Yeah, no, don't be doing that. Don't be that person. You bring a lot of singles.
You got Venmo?
Don't do that. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of people.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. So, or they'll just say, "Here, give me your card." There you go. It's done. They're very sophisticated. But it's a big deal, and we enjoy it here in Watertown. Yeah. And it's good for the local economy here in Watertown. They look at the mile-long yard sale in the spring and the fall as probably their biggest economic days of the year.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love
Very
it
nice.
too. All right. It's now 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news.
3:31. I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 68 degrees in Nashville, and we are going to see light rain, possibly a little heavier as we get into the evening, and some possible thunderstorms here later on tonight and into tomorrow as well. Weather forecast, traffic report 5 minutes away. Now over to Philadelphia. A shooting there happened today. At least 2 people were shot this afternoon in the city. It happened near an event celebrating the end of Ramadan. It does not seem that it was related to that religious event. Officials reporting that they right now believe it was not an act of terrorism related to Hamas, but rather normal criminal activity between 2 parties. Multiple people injured. At least 1 police officer fired their weapon. Officials have made multiple arrests. At least 4 guns were recovered in this incident. Law enforcement now conducting what they call a line search, where they go out through an area very carefully. They're looking at every blade of grass, trying to find any evidence or any abnormalities that may lead to some evidence. And now over in Baltimore, the cleanup efforts in full gear. Crews trying to clear the wreckage from the accident that caused the Francis Scott Key Bridge to collapse. Governor Wes Moore says that shipping traffic is not back to normal since the 2 temporary channels that are open are too shallow for major vessels to pass through. But the governor says today that a 3rd channel will open soon. Governor Moore also saying that crews are hard at work to remove shipping containers from the ship that rammed into a pillar of the bridge so it can be taken away from the site.
Just one empty container that's sitting on the vessel can have a weight of over 1.5 tons, and that's an empty vessel. As of last night, we have removed 34 containers, and our present goal is to remove around 178 containers total.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
You know, if you're in the market for a pole barn, the 2 brothers that run Stoltzko are the 2 guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that, my friends, is the Stoltzko difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. Function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage. Have you heard of a barn dominium? They do those too. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They do not script on quality. They do not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So won't you do me a favor? Go to their website, stoltzco.com, Stoltzco, stoltzco.com. Take a look at some of the things they've done for other people, and then you're going to want to call and have a conversation. 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
"38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We talked about the economy, which is a big issue for people on their minds in an election year. And as I said, the number one issue is immigration. But let's talk about that a little more. So here's a question you should ask yourself. You say, well, how does it really impact me? Well, I think it impacts in a lot of ways, but it also impacts your pocketbook, believe it or not. From the Epoch Times, a pretty interesting commentary. Illegal immigration cost American households hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Illegal immigration weighs heavily on the wallets of hardworking American taxpayers to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Still, the Biden administration turns a blind eye to these fiscal strains, neglecting the toll on our economy, the structural integrity of our nation, and the safety of our citizens. Estimates suggest that illegal immigrants cost each household, you ready? Pay attention to this number. This is how much illegal immigration costs your household. About $1,000, which adds up to more than $120 billion a year. Sources such as Newsweek hint the true cost may be even higher, possibly reaching $150 billion annually, an amount shared by both federal and state governments. And who funds them? You do. In all actuality, the financial impact could be even more. The situation continues to deteriorate day by day. The repercussions of illegal immigration cast long shadows over various aspects of our society. I think this is true. Heightened crime rates, to suppressed wages, to the depletion of taxpayer resources. Public services face strain with illegal immigrants accessing emergency health care, enrolling their children in public schools, tapping into social welfare programs. Some argue their willingness to accept lower wages drives down earnings overall, leading to reduced tax revenues and increased reliance on social welfare programs among low-wage workers, citizens, and legal residents alike. Even our property tax is paying for illegal immigrants. This generational problem demands pragmatic consideration and competent leadership. And right now, sadly, we don't have any of that. A lot of money going to that. Here's another story. Tell you a little something. More than half of foreign-born people in the United States live in just 4 states. More than half of foreign-born people in the United States live in just 4 out of the 50 states, and only half are naturalized citizens. The rest are here in some state of legal limbo. More than half of the foreign-born population in the United States lives in just 4 states. You ready? Here they are: California, Texas, Florida, and New York. And their numbers grew older and more educated over the past dozen years, according to a new report released Tuesday by the Census Bureau. In 2022, the foreign-born population was estimated to be 46.2 million, or almost 14% of the population, with most states seeing double-digit percentage increases in the last dozen years, according to figures from the Bureau's American Community Survey. In California, New Jersey, New York, and Florida, foreign-born individuals comprise more than 20% of each state's population. They constituted 1.8% of West Virginia's population, and that was the smallest rate in the U.S. Half of the foreign-born residents in the U.S. were from Latin America, although their composition has shifted in the past dozen years, with those from Mexico dropping to about 1 million people, and those from South America and Central America increasing by 2.1 million people. The share of foreign population from Asia went from more than a quarter to under a third during that time, while the share of African-born went from 4 to 6%. So how many? They didn't really give a number of how many are in this country, but I read a story today. I want to say that Speaker Johnson said he thought it was, I believe the number was 14 million people have come into this country illegally since Joe Biden took office. 14 million is the guess. And it's a guess. It could be more than that. Now, speaking of Speaker Johnson, this is a very interesting development. GOP senators have convinced Speaker Johnson. So members of the Senate who are Republicans have talked to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and have asked him to delay the delivery of Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment articles. So they'll do it next week. Republican senators convinced House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, to delay the delivery of 2 impeachment articles against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, citing concerns that Senate Democrats will look to quickly dismiss them once a trial begins in the upper chamber. I hate it when they call it the upper chamber. That's just a bug of mine. It's not an upper chamber. It's a term that they use that's just really not accurate. They're co-equal branches, and there's not an upper and a lower. To ensure the Senate has adequate time to perform its constitutional duty, the House will transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate next week. There is no reason whatsoever for the Senate to abdicate its responsibilities to hold an impeachment trial, a spokesperson for Johnson told Fox News on Tuesday. At least 10 Republican senators said they were actively pressuring the Speaker to delay delivering the articles in order to prevent Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and the Democrat caucus from tabling the trial ahead of the weekend and sending senators home shortly after. Schumer told senators in a Dear Colleague letter last week that proceedings would begin Thursday once the articles are delivered on Wednesday, that's today, as expected. Johnson had indicated the delivery date would be the previous date that he promised that they'd be sent over, but now he's saying no. So what they didn't want this. They didn't want to have it show up and then Schumer pulls some kind of fast parliamentarian maneuver to sort of dispense with it and make it go away, and then they go bang the gavel, everybody goes home for the weekend. They want to make certain Democrats squirm just a little bit. Apparently, including a couple like John Tester, for example, running for re-election in Montana. And Tester is one of those that they really they think that they can take his seat because, it's a pretty Republican state. And they think they can get it. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green, Republican of Tennessee, you know him from the 7th Congressional District of Tennessee, the lead impeachment manager, emerged from Johnson's office moments after the announcement and told reporters, "We were ready to go tomorrow." But apparently they have decided they will delay that. Well, they will delay that. And then there's this. And I like this. This is what I want to see. GOP, the Republicans, plan to grind the Senate to a complete halt if the Democrats table Mayorkas impeachment trial. 6 sources told Fox News Digital that roughly a dozen GOP senators have been planning for more than a week to obstruct legislative proceedings and regular business in the Senate if, at a minimum, points of order are not agreed to in the impeachment trial of Mayorkas when they finally do deliver the articles to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. You see, the Senate, and this article is correct, it generally runs on unanimous consent. Things get done a lot by unanimous consent. No objection is heard, so ordered. The Senate Republican leader said any senator can do that. Any one senator can say, I object. And a certain set of facts or points of order will need to be agreed upon once the impeachment articles arrive in the Senate before any trial can take place. We go about a process to negotiate the precise procedural metes and bounds of this particular impeachment proceeding, says Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, speaking at a press conference. At the same conference, John Kennedy, a Republican of Louisiana, I love him, noted that Senate President pro tempore Patty Murray would preside over the proceedings. She doesn't have to recognize us. That's entirely possible that Senator Schumer will tell her only to recognize him, and we won't even have a chance to make a point of order. A second Senate Republican aide also confirmed that several senators are voicing support for slowing or even stopping all legislative business if the impeachment is tabled. See, it's not going to be. Schumer wants it done quick, and it was going to be. Maybe it's going to be done tomorrow. But now they're going to wait till next week, deliver the articles of impeachment, and the Republicans, a great number of Republicans in the Senate, are going to insist that there be some discussion. And if they don't get that, then they do have the power. Any one senator can sort of bring the Senate to its knees at any given moment by objecting, and then you got to go through a whole rigmarole. I mean, you can really, if you want to be dilatory, if you really want to slow things down in the United States Senate, you can do it, especially if you got 12, 13, 14 people bringing up points of order. That can just grind things down to a halt. And so, I know that Schumer doesn't want that. He wants to do away with this. He doesn't want to have this impeachment trial at all. But he also understands that he can't let the Senate just be completely locked down so that nothing can get done. So the question is, how many Republicans are on board with this? I would say right now enough. Here's where you find out. A source familiar with a Republican Senate lunch at the National Republican Senatorial Committee on Tuesday says to Fox News that discussion also took place there. It had the support of numerous senators, the source said, and no one dismissed the idea. Senate Republican aide gave examples of what a Senate standstill would look like, pointing to motions to adjourn, to recess, proceed to executive business, as well as objections to regular order such as wrap-ups, forcing the Senate to go through lengthy procedural actions such as reading from the journal. They have to approve the daily journal, right? And normally that's done without objection. It is so ordered, right? But if somebody says, no, I would like to hear the journal. So some poor clerk then has to saddle up to a microphone and read the proceedings of the previous day. Every word of it. So there are so many ways that it can be locked down. So that's going to be fun to watch, and we'll keep an eye on that. But it looks like all of that has been pushed off until next week. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, the folks at Beacon Capital Management want to tell you about a free document shredding event on Saturday, April 20th from 8 to 11 in the parking lot there in Cool Springs. Just bring anything you need to shred, and you hand it to people, and you can sit there and watch them feed it right into the shredder, turn into little tiny bits of paper. So that, this comes just a few days after tax day, so it might be a good time to get rid of a bunch of old documents you have laying around in a secure way. And then, one of the things you might want to do is when you get home is check out, this thing that they have there that can tell you whether or not you're saving enough money for retirement. If we've learned anything over the past few years, that we can expect change. And for those nearing retirement, change can feel scary. If you're worried about how things like inflation and interest rates can affect your retirement nest egg, use the Beacon Capital Management free retirement savings calculator, completely free. Super fast, takes less than 30 seconds from start to finish, and you'll get some results that can give you some guidance about where you are. Just visit askbeaconnow.com to get started. And once you do that and you find out, well, maybe I need to make some adjustments here, I need some help, well, then call them at 615-488-9303. They'll gather some information. They'll give you some guidance, and you have nothing to lose here except for all of the worry. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away about your retirement, so learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
A shooting in Philadelphia close to a religious celebration, an active Amber Alert in Missouri that could be connected to Tennessee, inflation numbers, and Kevin Costner could be back for the final half season of Yellowstone. 4 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, we'll see. Looking at the markets, Dow Jones Industrial, not a good day, down 422 points. S&P down 50. The NASDAQ down 136. These screens are red because there was a very, very hot inflation report that came in today. With more on that, let's check in with John Maxson over at Beacon Capital Management. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, it was a rough day with this hotter than expected inflation number, which, of course, the Fed is watching really closely. The Fed believed, investors in the market believe, that inflation has continued to cool. And although it has dropped from its peak, we just got the third month in a row that inflation was higher than expected, 0.4 versus 0.3. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a real problem for the Fed as they continue to have this goal of getting inflation back to 2%. The market believed that when the year started, we'd have 4 to 6 rate cuts. Then it was down to 3. Now we're seeing that the market believes 2, and in some cases, none are due. So it means higher rates for longer. So some complications for the Fed. So not a good inflation report, really impacting markets today.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And listen, to find out about all the things that John and the other nice people over at Beacon Capital Management can do for you to help you plan for your retirement, just go to askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. You know, Eurofix has a very different business philosophy. They staff all of their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop so they can be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you noticed how hard it can be to get some right now appointments for vehicle repair? Some dealers, you can wait more than 2 weeks just to get in the door, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999, plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car and fix it now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car in the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away now. Eurofix repairs all European cars, and Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can or cannot or can't or just won't do it. Family owned for some 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
.401, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 70 degrees in Nashville. A bit cloudy, expecting showers as we head into this afternoon and into the evening. Traffic report plus that complete weather forecast. It's headed your way in 5 minutes. A violent afternoon in Philadelphia. At least 2 people shot at what was supposed to be a celebration. Derek Dennis reports.
The initial gunfire was reported just after 2 in the afternoon in Philadelphia's Parkside neighborhood. Police responding to reports of shots fired at a large gathering at or near a church celebrating Eid al-Fitr, the end of the holy month of Ramadan. Witnesses say the shooting led to widespread panic, with people fleeing for safety as police officers arrived on scene from across the city. At least 5 suspects are in custody. Several guns recovered after multiple victims were reported shot.
Here in Tennessee, an active Amber Alert in Missouri may have connections to the volunteer state. The TBI says an Amber Alert was issued for 3-year-old Isaiah Laurent. The toddler is believed to be with Donald Laurent and traveling through Tennessee en route to Alabama. The suspect vehicle, a Mercury sedan, Alabama tag 50A242P. A photo of the child has not yet been provided. Anyone who sees this car should call 911. Some money news. If you're waiting for interest rates to drop so you can buy a home or you're worried about your credit card APR, Rebecca Jarvis says the inflation report this morning shows prices rose 3.5% year over year in March, almost 0.5% from February.
Today's report decreases the likelihood of a rate cut in June. That would have been the first rate cut in some time, and that means mortgage rates, car loans, those credit card APRs, they all stay higher for longer.
Costs to fill up your gas tank, pay for rent, and mortgages and food are the culprits. Average American families paying more than $200 a month for the same stuff they bought last year, more than $1,000 a month over the past 3 years. And some entertainment news. Could Kevin Costner be back for the final half season of Yellowstone? It appears there is hope. Here's Jason Nathanson.
Yellowstone, one of the most popular shows on TV, returns later this year for the second half of its 5th and final season, and we thought star Kevin Costner wasn't going to be a part of it. He and show creator Taylor Sheridan apparently had creative and financial differences. But in his first public comments on the matter, Costner is opening the door to a return.
I'd like to be able to do it, but we haven't been able to. I'm not sure how it's being worked out.
He tells Entertainment Tonight he loved making the series.
Maybe this will circle back to me. If it does, and I feel really comfortable with it, I'd love to do it.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
Good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. It's time for hour number 2 of The Drive on this 10th day of April. A cloudy afternoon. We do have some showers in the area, but a pretty pleasant 70 degrees. That's not too bad. That's not too shabby. So just hang in there. We'll get you home safely. And along the way, I'll give you some news and information so you can walk in the door and wow the fam with some little factoid that you learned. I'm all about the factoids.
Hey, honey, did you know this weekend's the big 1 mile yard sale in Watertown?
Yeah, it is, by the way. And by the way, let me just say, if you've heard me talk about bucolic Watertown, and you wonder, what is bucolic? Well, come to Watertown and find out.
Come get you a touch of bucolic.
That's right. I got me a bad case of bucolic because I went down there and got me one of them hot dogs at the mile-long yard sale, and now I just got some bucolic going. No, it's a beautiful little town. We love to have you. I'm looking forward to having everybody come in. So, you hear me talk about it, you say, what is this thing they call Watertown? You can go by and see all the sites. I mean, you can go to the coffee shop where all the locals gather. You can go to the Bank of Two Caitlin's. You can go to the hardware store, slash, what is it? Masonic Temple.
Yeah.
It's both those things. Then you can go over to the deli, a grocery store, and gas station.
All within walking distance.
And if you go to the pharmacy, not only can you, fill your prescriptions if you need to do that, you can also buy clothes and knives. They sell knives, but you can't sell knives to minors.
No, never.
Not in the yard sale. It's not allowed.
Mm-mm.
But it's a good time, and you'll really enjoy our little town. You might want to take the train out. That'll be fun. Someday I'm going to go to Nashville and take the train home. But then my car will be on the other end.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
No, it's not. That won't work. Let's do our 2024 update. Some numbers from Tennessee that I think you'll find interesting. The Nashville-based Beacon Center of Tennessee published results of its poll on Wednesday, revealing how registered Tennessee voters would vote in the 2024 presidential and Senate general election races. This according to the Tennessee Star. They went and looked and talked to about almost 1,200 registered voters here in the volunteer state. In the 2024 presidential election, the poll shows that former President Donald Trump leads Joe Biden by about 25 points, 58-33 over incumbent President Joe Biden. Trump over Biden by 25 points. Sounds about right. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., when he is added to the choices, Trump's lead shrinks to 20 points over Biden, and RFK pulls about 15% of the vote in the state of Tennessee. How about that? And then let's look at the Senate race. Marsha Blackburn is up this time around. She leads Tennessee State Representative Gloria Johnson, Democrat of Knoxville, by 16 points. But amazingly, 26% of the voters said they remain undecided about that. I don't think they'll remain undecided very long. So there you go. We'll see how that all goes. Tennesseans have yet to really tune, I think, to the Senate race, so that's probably true. It'll happen as we get closer. People are thinking presidential. Wednesday's poll also asked likely voters about the job performance of 3 statewide elected officials, Governor Bill Lee, Senator Blackburn, and Senator Bill Hagerty. Lee's popularity among voters is favorable as a total of 48% approve, 28% disapprove. Tennessee voters also approve the job performance of both senators. Blackburn's job performance has the overall approval of 41%, while 34% approve of Hagerty's job performance. I think that is reflective of the fact that, well, we've known Marsha Blackburn for a lot longer than we've known Bill Hagerty. I think it's just a name ID thing, but I'll tell you what, I think Bill Hagerty's doing a great job as a United States Senator, just my personal opinion. I always enjoy our conversations when he comes on the program. Been a while. We need to reach out to him and have him back on again. Democrats have been panicking about Joe Biden, and now they're panicking about the Senate, writes RedState.com. There has been, at least for a year, speculation that Joe Biden was going to bow out or be forced out. Once more, there have been calls from within his own party to have him step aside and let younger, fresher leadership step in, but Biden is stubborn. Apparently won't let anybody push him out of the way. However, a lot of signs that the American public does not feel confident about his job as president. There's a lot of grumbling that has turned into polling data showing a plurality of Americans would prefer going back to Donald Trump rather than keep Biden around. Of course, you know that. Democrats are worried, and there are two recent, though seemingly unrelated stories that show the Democrats aren't just worried about Biden, but about the Democrat Party as a whole this November, particularly, as I've been saying for some time now, where the Senate is concerned. The current Senate map is extremely unfavorable for Senate Democrats. The most vulnerable of their members are up for re-election, including in Arizona, Montana, and Ohio, which are considered toss-up seats. Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin are also up for grabs, currently listed as leans Democrat. Overall polling for Democrats across the board from Joe Biden on down is bad, and there are some signs in the economy that things could get worse, as we saw today with an inflation rate that was higher than expected. The first story that appears to be a sign that Democrats are worried about the Senate is Chuck Schumer threatening to table Alejandro Mayorkas' impeachment trial. In a non-election year, Schumer would likely allow it to come to the floor knowing it would fail. Democrats would give passionate defenses of Mayorkas and Biden while trashing Republicans and Trump for getting in the way of real border reform. But it's an election year, and this is the thing to note. This is the key line. Several of Schumer's colleagues would be asked to vote to save Mayorkas' job, a job that he's failed at, and a job that has led to one of the biggest, if not the biggest, issues of the election cycle, immigration. If Schumer were confident his party would be able to hold the Senate, he would bring the Mayorkas impeachment to the floor. But that it is an extremely tough vote for senators running for re-election in Arizona and Nevada. The second story about the recent slate of calls for Sonia Sotomayor to retire. I mean, honestly, think about this. Why do they want Sonia Sotomayor to retire? Because they're afraid they're going to lose the Senate. Why is that important? Well, Supreme Court nominations have to be confirmed by the Senate. And so they may lose the White House, but there is a good chance they'll lose the Senate. And so, you know, that would have a change. You know, right now there's a 6-3 conservative majority. And if Sotomayor, you know, decides to stick it out and then something happens, you know, to one of the liberals on the high court, she's the oldest of them, then you would likely see if Republicans took the Senate or if we took the White House, which I expect both those things will happen, then it would turn from a 6-3 conservative majority to a 7-2 conservative majority, and Democrats, that just scares the you-know-what out of them. You know, they don't want to go any further in that direction. It's going to take, as it stands now, probably decades to work your way through that problem if you're a Democrat, because the Republicans and the conservatives control the high court by a pretty large margin, I think one of the largest on record. So it is both the fact that they don't want to talk about Mayorkas because it puts Senator on the record as defending Mayorkas' job, and most Americans don't think he's doing a very good job. And then when it comes to Sotomayor, they're pushing her to retire, and that's a sign that they don't think that they'll hold on to the Senate or perhaps even the White House. I think both those things will probably go into the red column. I'm a little worried about the House right now, but we'll see how that shakes out in the passage of time. PJ Media writes a column written by Athena Thorne, feeling pretty good about the new and improved RNC, and I think that's right. RNC co-chairs Michael Whatley and Lara Trump appeared on Maria Bartiromo's Sunday Morning Futures over the weekend, where they talked about the priorities of the RNC and elaborated steps they're going to get the country back on track, securing a victory in November. And they were able to report that Donald Trump had just raked in a record $50 million at one fundraising event, twice as much as Joe Biden's star-studded New York City fundraiser. And I think when I hear Whatley and Trump speak about what they're doing at the RNC, I like it a lot. First of all, I think they've gotten the focus on raising some money for Trump, which needs to be done, raising money for Republicans, that needs to be done, and they're doing it in a big way. I mean, it's almost as if the RNC went from being sort of back on its haunches to standing on its tippy toes pretty quick. And then I like the idea that they are focused on the right things. Number one, making sure that there is election integrity in this coming election. And number two, working very hard to do the things that Democrats have been doing for a long, long time, which is getting voters to go to the polls early. They're going to spend a ton of money in an effort to get people to go to the polls early because Democrats have been doing that, and they've been just killing Republicans over the last few elections by getting all of the votes put in the bank early. Get the votes in early. If you know how you're going to vote, there's no reason why you need to wait till election day. And, I was always one of those who doesn't like to vote early. And in some cases, I would say I still may not vote early if there's a race out there where I'm waiting for more information. But in a presidential election year, we know Trump and we know Biden, and a lot of people with the sound of my voice, I'm pretty sure, have made up their minds. Vote early. And I love the fact that the RNC is pushing that so hard. I didn't know this. This is fascinating. Two stories very similar from the Washington Times. President Biden might not be able to get on the Ohio ballot because of the timing of the Democrat National Convention. The Ohio Secretary of State's office raised the issue to State Democrat Party Chair Liz Walters in recent days, saying the Democrat convention in Chicago will kick off on August 19th after a state deadline of August 7th to certify a presidential candidate. I am left to conclude that the Democrat National Committee must either move up its nominating convention or the Ohio General Assembly must, by May 9th of 2024, 90 days prior to the election, create an exception to this statutory requirement. Top state Democrats, House Minority Leader Allison Russo and Senate Minority Leader Nikki Antonio were copied on the letter. The Biden campaign reportedly working on the issue, confident it will be on the ballot in all 50 states, which is customary. But they got a little problem to work out. And not only there, now, Ohio, mostly a red state, but it's not as much as Alabama. Alabama's a very red state, and get this. Alabama's Republican Secretary of State Wes Allen has warned President Joe Biden may not appear on the state's general election ballot in November, as he will likely miss a key deadline to be certified owing to the timing of the Democrat National Convention nominating process. Same problem, different state. And look, if Joe Biden's not on the ballot in Alabama, it doesn't really matter because, it's an overwhelmingly red state. You weren't going to win Alabama's electoral votes anyway, unless something really dramatic were to happen. So I don't know if that's a big one. Ohio, I think, is one he would probably want to fight for. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can resolve all of that. For another time, I'll save this. The weird electoral system in deep red Nebraska, writes the Washington Times, could hand Biden a second term. This has to do with the fact it's not a winner-take-all state. There is a unicameral form of government, meaning that they don't have a House and Senate. They just have what they call a Senate, and they split the Electoral College vote. And while Nebraska is deep red, he could award one of the electoral votes to Biden, and under certain circumstances, depending on how you count up the Electoral College votes, that would not be good because Biden could win by one electoral vote if certain things were to take place. The Republicans in the state of Nebraska have I think they control the body, but there've been some fighting about whether or not they want to change this system to a winner-take-all system, and we need to watch that one pretty close. 22 past the hour now, 4 o'clock. All right, be honest with me. Are you happy with your weight? I was not happy with mine. You see, I started regaining a lot of the weight that I lost last year. And I just said, I'm not going to do this yo-yo thing up and down, up and down, up and down. I want to get on it. And though I've never taken on a weight loss client before, I am impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon developed for me. You see, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They looked at me, my history, my lifestyle, and suggested an approach that's starting to show some very real results. And amazingly, the good part about this is I'm going through a process and I'm not hungry. I don't do hunger very well. I get hangry. You don't want to be around me when I'm hangry. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are thrilled with the results. We have noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Here's the number, 615-470-8124. And learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
Finding out more about the shooting that happened today in Philadelphia, plus our money news report, 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 27 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Couple of quick stories I want to get into before we get to the news at the bottom of the hour with Mac Morey. On Tuesday, that was yesterday, a 41-year-old Florida woman who, and I'm using air quotes here, stole a diary belonging to Ashley Biden ahead of the 2020 elections, before selling it to Project Veritas. You know, that was the former organization that James O'Keefe runs, where they do sort of, you know, hidden camera investigations. Well, she's been sentenced to 1 month in jail, 3 months of home detention, as well as 3 years probation. Amy Harris and her accomplice Jonathan Kurlander pleaded guilty to one charge of conspiracy each in August of 2022, and he has not yet been sentenced. That's scheduled for 2 days from now. According to CNBC, in addition to the aforementioned punishments, the judge ordered Harris to serve 3 years probation and pay $20,000, which was her cut of the amount she and Kurlander received from Project Veritas. Now, at Project Veritas, they have James O'Keefe says this. He's not with them anymore, but this is what he said about it. We have never met or heard of the tipsters. The tipsters indicated the diary had been abandoned in a room in which Miss Biden had been staying at the time, in which the tipsters stayed in temporarily after Miss Biden departed the room. The tipsters indicated the diary included explosive allegations against then-candidate Joe Biden. And you may have seen some stuff. I've seen it all over the place on social media about what's in that diary, but I want to read this next sentence to you so you know. None of the contents was ever verified or published by O'Keefe or his team of investigative journalists. So the things that have been said are not coming from the people who, as far as I know, are still in possession of the diary or did have the diary for at least a time. So that just, I want you to know, I think there's some bad reporting out there on that. Maybe there's something that I've missed, but I don't think so. I don't think the things that have been alleged that you're seeing on social media, at least to my reading, are not accurate, or at least are not confirmed. Let's put it that way. Desperate Fani Willis is fighting hard to stay on the Trump case. She is staying on after her lover, Nathan Wade, decided that he would withdraw from the case. But there's another issue at play here. Trump's legal team cited a January speech as evidence of her alleged politicization of the case, which is arguably a more serious issue than her relationship with Wade. And they are now the Trump team has gone and said, let's have an appeal of that, and we think she should still not be on and be allowed to stay on the case. And that's now before an appellate court. And the appellate court, as I read it, is not supposed to even be required to hear that case or likely consider that case until sometime late May. So this thing is getting dragged out, and it may entirely be possible that Fani Willis will be removed from the prosecution of Donald Trump in that particular case. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
.430, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 70 degrees, mostly cloudy, and showers expected this afternoon into the evening. Strong rain, heavy rain, and possible storms as well expected tonight. Traffic weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Philadelphia police searching for a motive in a shooting that happened this afternoon in a park where more than 1,000 people were celebrating the feast of Eid al-Fitr, marking the end of Ramadan. Police say more than 30 shots were fired between two groups attending the festival. 5 people were arrested. 4 of them were stopped fleeing the scene in a car. Each one of them had a gun. A 15-year-old with a gun was arrested after he was shot and injured by a police officer who engaged him. At least 3 people were injured, including the teenage gunman. None of the injuries are life-threatening. Here's Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel briefing reporters.
We have one of our officers who was assigned to the area engage a 15-year-old male who has a weapon. She fires, and that male receives a gunshot to his shoulder and his leg.
Bethel went on to say that, quote, once again, we have young people who are engaging in gunfire who really destroy the sanctity of what happened. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger filling us in on Wall Street's activity today.
Stocks fell on an important inflation report. The Dow gave up 422 points. The Nasdaq closed down 136, and the S&P fell 49. Yes, you did pay more for just about everything last month, from gas to rents. The latest consumer price index rose 0.4% from February to March, up 3.8% from this time last year. The results, combined with a hotter than expected March jobs report, could delay the Federal Reserve's plans to cut interest rates this year. Some Fed policymakers may have seen this coming at their last meeting. The minutes show 19 of them say inflation is not improving. The CPI will be followed by the Producer Price Index, or PPI, on Thursday. It measures prices at the wholesale level before they reach consumers. It could be last call for dry towns in New York State. Lawmakers are considering a bill that would require a number of towns and villages to lift pre-prohibition bans.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
Listen, if you need a new mower for your yard, I mean, it's that old mower that you got is that on its last legs. Well, hang on. Just a few more days. Saturday, April 20th, the folks at DT McCall and Sons will be having a huge mower sale at their facility up in Carthage. You definitely want to go by there. It's only at the Carthage location. But boy, if you're looking for a mower and a deal on a mower, especially if you're looking for one of those big zero-turn jobbers, this is the sale that you want to attend. By the way, when you get up there, you need to walk through that particular store too, because I'm telling you, that place is cavernous. When you walk through one room and you think you've seen it all, and you turn the corner, there's a whole nother room, and you turn a corner, there's a whole nother room. I mean, it's like you won't believe all the stuff they have on display. And really, anything that you want for your home, you're going to find it at DT McCall's. In addition to the mower sale, they have some other size discounts going on some appliances like a washer and a dryer, mini fridge, all kinds of them. DeWalt handheld tools will be on sale. So listen, you need to get by up there. Remember, they've been around for more than 100 years, and the reason that they've been so successful over that period of time is they have a reputation for treating people fairly. You're going to love the things that you see at DT McCall and Sons. Find out about their 5 convenient locations at dtmccalls.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and it's that time of the week where we get to talk to Pete Hegseth when he's available, and he is today. Pete Hegseth, of course, is the host of Fox and Friends on the Weekend. By the way, Pete, I happened to see some of your ratings. Congratulations. You guys are crushing it on the weekends.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I think we got a good team. I love working with Will and Rachel. The ratings are strong. Thank you. Yeah, I think we're feeling the same way the American people are feeling. Let's get after it.
All right. So now, when we last spoke, you mentioned that you have a book coming out. So will we be adding, in the next few days, New York Times best-selling author Pete Hegseth to your title?
I hope so, Brian. So yes, this weekend on Fox and Friends, I announced a new book. It's called The War on Warriors, and it's about the betrayal of our warrior class by political leaders and generals. And it's not just about how the military went woke. It's about how the military allowed itself to go woke as a meritocracy and an institution grounded in the Constitution. So it's still a couple months out. It's coming out June 4th, but you can pre-order it right now anywhere books are sold. Thanks,
what are the major premises that you came up with as you investigated that matter and look back compared to the time when you were perhaps in the military?
No doubt. And my story is a part of the book because a little tease here, Brian. The back cover says, in 2001, I joined to fight extremists, and then 20 years later, the Army called me one. And that's part of the reason why I left. That's part of the reason why I left the military. In a very specific circumstance, I was dubbed an extremist, me personally. But it is very similar to whether it's the vaccines, whether it's excessive patriotism, whether it's the DEI stuff, the gender stuff, commanders walking on eggshells. We use example after example in units across the country, all ranks, where everything's upside down. It should be about building the most lethal, united force possible, and instead it's about diversity is our strength, and making the 101st Airborne look more like Harvard University. And we pull all the receipts, name the names. And the nice part is, Brian, real quick, and then we can move on. This is different than education. Education, I wrote my last book, Battle for the American Mind, about the K-12 takeover by the left. That was a 100-year project that's going to take us generations to undo. This is very wide in the DoD, but it's thin. It's not a deep takeover. It's mostly a Obama Biden thing. So with the right commander-in-chief and the right leaders, we can turn it around.
Well, and listen, I think it's a fascinating topic, and a lot of people are looking at what's happening in the business world and saying, that the DEI and the ESG and all of that has had an impact in that companies are not looking out for, the bottom line anymore. They're looking about, making sure that they're woke, which to me, I wonder, for example, and some people have pondered if that's part of what happened over at Boeing, where they got so concerned about DEI that they weren't taking care of making sure that their airplanes were safe.
It's all distractions. You have a finite amount of time and emphasis in your unit to focus. And time again, I've got examples in the books of young lieutenants or staff sergeants saying, we were supposed to do radio training or rifle training, but we got diverted to social justice training or transgender training. And the command is obsessed with making sure everyone is 100% complete on their mandatory, social justice training or diversity, equity, inclusion training. The other stuff is sort of falls by the wayside. And that is exactly right. It's going to get people. Thing is, in both the Boeing instance and in the military, people get killed as a result if something goes wrong.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's something I think to be concerned about. And I think we'll look back on this period of time and say, what were we thinking? But moving on.
I hope so. I
hope so too. And I hope your book does very well. I can't wait to read it. And again, you say you can pre-order it now?
Yep. It's called The War on Warriors. Pre-order it anywhere. You'll have it the first day it's out.
All right, and we'll talk about it again as we get gets closer to the release date. So I'm looking at the numbers again, because I get obsessed with the numbers, but I see that they are. My sense of it is that the numbers are starting to tighten, which I think is probably not unexpected. Even in the battleground states, they seem to be tightening a little bit. As people you get closer and closer, that's something that traditionally does happen. Your sense of it?
Sure, yes. My sense of it is that if we're riding the numbers roller coaster right now, buckle up, because the numbers are going to go up and down and sideways between now, and then you have to dig into the crosstabs of likely voters versus registered voters versus unaffiliated voters. It's going to be tight, the whole thing, and it's going to be about ballot integrity and ballot protection. It still blows my mind, Brian, that in states across this country, there is almost universal mail-in balloting with no verification whatsoever. If the Republican Party doesn't have their arms all around that, then polls become meaningless. If the left is counting ballots and we're counting voters and polls, we lose. And so the numbers are interesting in that they were telling about whether Biden would be the nominee, but that seems to be more or less wrapped up at this point, unless there's a switcheroo at the convention. So I do think, Donald Trump getting in front of the abortion issue and all the demagoguery the left is bringing is going to tighten things, but that's understandable.
Yeah, that being said, the two things that are on the minds of Americans apparently are immigration, and we're gonna make some Democrats squirm apparently in the United States Senate as they take up the impeachment of Mayorkas. I mean, the general census is that's been put off until next week, and that Republicans are now saying that if you don't want to hear this case, Mr. Schumer, Senator Schumer, then we'll shut down the Senate. And in the Senate, it's entirely possible you can do that. You can bring things to a crawl. And then the other thing, of course, is the economy, and the numbers that came out today show that inflation is what they call sticky. It's not coming down the way they thought it was going to come down. And as a result of that, when I look at things like, since Joe Biden took office, gasoline is up 47%, baby food up 30%, natural gas up 26%, gasoline, I said that already, 21%. I mean, real average earnings went down about 4% during the same period of time. Those numbers are not good for this administration, and I would imagine that they're not very likely to see rate cuts later this year.
Precisely right. It'll slow that process down, no doubt, which is something the White House has been touting, even though, yes, rate cuts have an impact in due time. But the most significant aspects of inflation, as you laid out, are already baked in. I feel like the White House is spinning its wheels trying to spin this economy as a good one. No one feels like their prospects or their dollar is going farther than it was 4 or 5 years ago under Donald Trump, which is why you'll see them pivot away from the economy and any sort of positive arguments toward demagoguery about so-called democracy and January 6th and abortion. On the immigration issue, my understanding is, and having gone through this a few times, the Senate can't take up any other business until the trial is resolved, which means if Chuck Schumer doesn't want to take it up, constitutionally they're not supposed to be able to take up any other business. And you're right, Republican senators, if Schumer tries to play games, can hold it up as well, which is exactly what they should do. Listen, you think Republicans wanted to sit through the nonsense of the January 6th committee that was the trial that went on and on and on with television producers? Of course not. And Donald Trump still survived that because it was a made-up show where they denied a lot of the evidence. Democrats don't want to talk about the border. I get it. But you don't have a choice. Turnabout is fair play. And that's where Republicans, if you cave on this, I feel like I say that all the time. You cave, and then they'll cave again. But hopefully they can stand strong because it's very clear.
Well, I mean, it's listen, I covered the institution of the Senate and the House for about 12 years at different times for different organizations. And when you want to shut the Senate down, it's pretty easy to do because the place generally operates on unanimous consent. With unanimous consent so ordered, but if objection is heard, things can start to grind to a halt. You can actually just bring that thing to a grinding, nasty halt if you want to play hardball with it. And it sounds like Republicans are willing to do that in the Senate, at least. That's the sign that I'm reading today.
Sounds like it. I heard the same thing from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, about HR 2 and dying on that hill and standing strong there. This is an issue where I guess there is a point where there could be public backlash, but find it hard to believe that backlash would come on an issue like this, which is so glaring and so bad for Democrats. So grind it to a halt. Make the case. Put your best speakers out there. Keep giving speeches. Fox will cover it. Other people will cover it. Filibuster it. Block unanimous consent. You know the process better than I do, but they can do it, and this is the issue they should do it on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shutting down the Senate is a lot different than shutting down the government.
Correct.
I mean, people don't care. I mean, to me, I love it when government is the Senate is gridlocked, because I would prefer that the House and Senate not be doing a whole lot, because I believe that government which governs best is that which governs least. So, if they can't do anything, fine by me. There's not a whole lot out there that has to be done now that the budgets are passed. So I don't think
Exactly right.
I think it will register with people like it would if the entire government were shut down.
That's very fair. Yep.
Yep. All right. So we're going to look really forward to reading your new book, and we'll talk about that again. And again, I want to give everybody a chance to get it pre-ordered. So give me those details one more time.
Yes, the book is called The War on Warriors, Behind the Betrayal of the Men Who Keep Us Free. It's called The War on Warriors. Google it, put it into anywhere that books are sold. Would appreciate people pre-ordering it. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Sounds good. And we'll talk to you again next time, about a week from now.
Got it.
All right. It is now 49 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Busy Bee, when you need heat or cold AC, just call that number, 775-7833, and they will come over and they'll get you up and running. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know about you, but I've been bouncing back and forth. When I go to bed at night, I think I need just a little bit of heater. And when I get up in the morning and after the sun comes up a little bit, I think I want a little air conditioning. I have to check both sides of my HVAC system. And if one side or the other at your house is not getting the job done, well, then give them a call. And of course, I've told you many times, and you know this because, your dad taught you about this, that you need to make sure you do preventative maintenance on your HVAC so it doesn't break down. It lasts longer. And that's what being a member of the Beehive Club is all about. For as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. Of course, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
A shooting in Philadelphia, 5 arrests there, 3 people shot. Teachers could be allowed to carry guns in the classroom, a recycle bin thief, and the Masters right around the corner. Those stories coming right at you. 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A pretty shocking statistic that I'm about to share with you from our neighbors to the west of us, Memphis. They have, we're about 100 days into the year. I guess April 9th. So that was yesterday, was the first 100 days of the year. Do you know that in Memphis they have had, on average, 1 homicide a day for the first 100 days? There have been 100 homicides already in Memphis so far this year. I mean, that's astonishingly bad. That is a bad number. We think we have crime problems, and we do have crime problems in Nashville. But I mean to tell you that already 100 days into the year, there have been 100 people who have died of murder in Memphis, Tennessee. About half of the homicides in the city were started by some kind of disagreement. 11% were the result of robberies, and 1% were said to be gang motivated. The motive for the additional 37% of homicides, not clear. According to Memphis Police Department officials, the city is currently on track to see almost 400 homicides by the end of this year. Wow. Last year, 2023, Memphis had the highest homicide rate in the United States per capita. The clearance rate for homicide cases is 53%. The nationwide average, I'm surprised that it's this low, is 54%. That means that 46% on average in America, 46% of murders never get solved or don't get cleared. So they're really struggling with it over in Memphis in the first 100 days. And they're talking maybe about trying to have a 7-day ceasefire. The mayor's meeting with gang members to see if they can get them to come to the table and stop killing each other. But what a situation that is. 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, the chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path. We aren't going to pay off that $34 trillion debt anytime soon. You know that. So what will happen? Well, the government will print more money and then weaken the U.S. dollar. Maybe it's time to think about saving with gold and other precious metals. I mean, maybe you've thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you just didn't feel like you had the knowledge to make a smart decision. I'm going to be real honest with you. I felt that way too. Well, but then I got a hold of the folks over at Nashville Gold and Coin and got some professional guidance. And the way this works is you call over there and you set up a one-on-one appointment. Then you sit down with my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin. They'll answer all your questions, help you make the precious metals investment that is right for you. It's friendly. You'll learn a lot. You'll never be subjected to a high-pressure sales pitch. Now, the truth is gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. And my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. By the way, if you have some old coins laying around, bring them along. You might be surprised just how much they're worth. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at CaliforniaClosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 68 degrees, a cloudy, wet day here in Nashville. Possible storms here later tonight and some strong rain expected. Traffic, complete weather forecast 5 minutes away. A violent afternoon in Philadelphia. 3 people shot, Derek Dennis reports.
The shots ringing out at a park in Philadelphia's Parkside neighborhood during a celebration marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan. There were multiple shooting victims, many of them said to be between 15 and 21 years old, including a 15-year-old with a gun who was shot by a responding officer.
We have 5 individuals under arrest, 4 who were carrying weapons, as well as the individual that our police officer fired and struck.
Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel, he says several guns have been recovered as investigators combed the scene.
Possible legislation in Tennessee. The bill that passed the Senate yesterday that would allow teachers to carry guns in school would not notify parents which teachers are carrying firearms. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik gives us a detailed description of the bill.
If passed, a staff member each year must get 40 hours of training, a background check, and a psychological evaluation. The director of schools, principal, and chief of the law enforcement agency would also have to approve that person to conceal carry. If a teacher or staff member did shoot, the liability would be on that individual, not the school or district. This bill brought dozens of parents to the Capitol yesterday. They rebelled after lawmakers kicked them out of the gallery for causing disruptions.
And this bill would allow one employee to carry a gun for every 75 students at the school. That means a school with 1,050 students may have 14 school staff members carrying concealed firearms. Staying in Tennessee, a recycle bin thief. News 2 reports that officials are trying to figure out who it is that's stealing clothing recycle bins from multiple locations. This is in Murfreesboro. Police say footage shows a white box truck pulling into a parking lot, taking one of those bins, and then leaving. 5 bins worth around $1,200 each were stolen around the city. And in sports, Tiger Woods spoke to the media at Augusta National yesterday ahead of the first round of the Masters that's on tomorrow. Here's what he said.
Every tee box has been changed since the first time I played. Every green has been changed. But the overall configuration of how they roll and how they move and the angles you take, that hasn't changed. That's a neat thing about this. I can still go into the mental Rolodex and bring out a few putts from the 90s that still move generally in that direction, and the effect that Race Creek has on certain shots and putts, and it means a lot.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Wilson! Brian! Wilson! Wilson! Wilson!
I'm here. I'm here, Tom. Just settle down. It's okay. He's very sad.
Upset.
Well, don't worry. I got it, Tom. I'm here. I got things under control. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am your friend and radio buddy. I am your FARB. I am Brian Wilson, and I'm going to be here until about 7 o'clock. We got a lot of ground to cover. Listen, I want to talk about the economy. Now you go, boy, I don't know. Snoresville. No, really, honestly, think about this for a moment. What are the things that voters have said that they're most concerned about? Number one, you talk, a lot of people do the polling. They say that the number one concern in America right now is immigration. But the number two is usually the number one, and that is the economy. People always want to know, what's going on with the economy, and they base their vote on how the economy is doing in their world. Their own personal finances. That's what, they really care about. How am I doing? And the question that you ask is, all right, how am I doing right now compared to how I was doing back when Donald Trump was the president? This is the thing that everybody will run, the equation they'll run in their heads as they get ready to vote. And I think most people would agree that the economy was percolating a lot better under Donald Trump than it has under Joe Biden. And, Joe Biden he's been trying to get this thing turned around. He's been talking about Bidenomics, because he actually thought, I think, for a while that the economy was going to get better, and then it was going to be something he'd be proud of to say, Bidenomics did this. Except that the economy's not getting better. And the new number that came out today just sort of reinforced that fact. The inflation number, as they say, is sticky. Think of the stickiest thing you can think of. Honey? What are things that are sticky?
Pine tar.
Pine tar's the worst.
Yeah.
And honey. Honey and jelly, I think, are the two that come to mind. Very sticky. In other words, inflation is not coming down the way the Biden administration told us it was going to. Remember when they said this?
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
It will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about
go back down.
This great
no joke.
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary.
But they haven't gone down. This goes on forever. This goes on for another minute or so.
I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff.
Well, it hasn't. Today's number, annual rate of inflation now stands at 3.5%. 3.5%. That was much higher number than they wanted. And, the Fed has said that before they can start bringing down interest rates, they're going to have to see inflation somewhere around 2%. So when we came in at 3.5% today, it was going in the wrong direction, not the right direction. And now there are people who are saying we may not get any interest rates at all this year. Maybe one late in the year. But right now, with inflation on the rise, if the Fed were to lower the interest rates, it would not be because the data show that that's the right thing to do. It would be because they are trying to have a political outcome here. And actually, to be honest with you, a lot of people who know more about economics than I do will tell you that if you try to cut interest rates too soon, you exacerbate the problem. So the consumer prices rose 3.5% from a year ago in March. Certainly not where we were at 9%, but certainly not where we need to be at 2% before they start cutting rates. And then really what you want to know is, okay, let's run that equation. Are you better off now than you were when Trump was in office? I don't think so. Here are some numbers that talk about how much things have gone up for Americans since Joe Biden raised his hand and took the oath of office. Some of these numbers are amazing. Gasoline has gone up 47.8%, almost 50%. Groceries up over that period of time, 21%. If you decide to go out, it's 21.4% to eat out and go to a restaurant. Baby food. You have a baby at home? Your baby food since Biden took office has gone up more than 30%. Pet food, 23. I don't know. I may need to put Grogu on a diet. That's costing me an awful lot to have that pet food. 23%. Rent has gone up almost 21%. Electricity has gone up 28.3%. Natural gas has gone up almost 27%. Airfare has gone up a whopping 32.7%. I mean, and when you start adding these things up, that means that you're paying a lot more for the things that you used to, get a lot cheaper. That's inflation. That's what inflation does to you over time. It compounds. It adds up. And then you say, well, okay, what about salaries? Have salaries gone up or gone down? Well, the way you crunch that number is you say, what is the effective salary that I have when you figure in inflation, when adjusted for inflation? And that means that in that same period of time, effectively, wages have gone down 4%. So you're making 4% less effectively than you were when you count all the impacts of inflation. I mean, they have gone up some, but not enough to keep up with the rate of inflation. You're behind by 4%. This is not good. This is not good. And so the Biden administration, you notice they're no longer touting that name Bidenomics anymore. Because they thought they were going to turn the corner and then they had never turned the corner. Finally, somebody at the White House said, maybe we shouldn't call it Bidenomics when it's going the wrong direction. The Consumer Price Index accelerated at a faster than expected pace in March, according to CNBC, pushing inflation higher and likely dashing hopes that the Federal Reserve will be able to cut interest rates anytime soon. The CPI, a broad measure of goods and services across the economy, rose 0.4% for the month, putting the 12-month inflation rate at 3.5%, or 3 percentage points higher than in February. 0.3% higher than in February. The labor market reported today. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones have been looking for a 0.3 gain and a 3.4% year-over-year level. So it's higher than expected. Hot inflation report derails the case for Fed's June rate cut. This from the Wall Street Journal. Stocks fell with the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropping. Well, I think it ended the day. Well, I got it right here. Dow Jones Industrial ended the day down 422 points on this news. The S&P 500 fell 50 points. The NASDAQ fell 136 points. I mean, this is not good. Yields climbed on U.S. government bonds, reducing bets that the data could help delay and diminish future interest rate reductions. The yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury note touched 4.5% for the first time since November. There you go. Inflationary pressures remain firm across the board, said Blerina Urishi, chief U.S. economist at T. Rowe Price Fixed Income Division. Inflation overall is firmer than the Fed needs it to be to initiate a series of interest rate cuts any time soon. Wednesday's report had been hotly anticipated because Fed leaders had been willing to play down stronger than anticipated inflation readings in January and February, saying, well, seasonal quirks, don't read too much into it. But when you go 3 months in a row and the inflation is above their expectations, it erodes that storyline and could lead Fed officials to postpone anticipated rate cuts until July or later. Some have said maybe not at all. Maybe not at all this year. Again, if they cut interest rates while the inflation rate is still on the climb, then they're doing it not for reasons driven by data, but they're doing it for political reasons. All right. And as long as we're looking at some of these numbers and talking about this, we often talk, in fact, we talk about it on this show a lot, what you need to put back in order to be able to retire comfortably. And so they do a study. Northwestern Mutual did a study to find out what Americans now say they feel they need in order to retire comfortably. That number's been going up. In 2020, most Americans said the magic number was $951,000. That's right. So less than $1 million. In 2023, it was, let's see, 1.27 million. Right now, today, the number is 1.46, almost $1.5 million. They say you've got to have that squirreled away. Most Americans feel that's what they need to retire comfortably. And we're not saving at that rate. Not at all. Because, the fact of the matter is when money's tight and things are costing you more, then, it's hard to put money back for your retirement. You've got to, every penny you make has got to go just to make ends meet, to put food on your table, to put clothes on your back, to put a roof over your head, and put gas in the tank so you can go to work and make a living and continue to go backwards from where you were the previous year. Man, it's not easy being a working man out there, is it? A working woman out there in the world? Yeah, I mean, right now, everything seems to be aligned against you. And that's why I look at this and I go, man, I know that Americans always vote their pocketbooks. The two things that they care about most are immigration and the economy. And the economy is not working for a great number of people. So when they run that calculation, everybody will run that calculation in their head. Well, how am I economically compared to when Donald Trump was in office? Am I better off? Am I worse off? I think most Americans would have to say, honestly, that they're not in as good a shape as they were back in the heady economic days of the Trump administration when the economy was percolating along in a very robust way. So, look, I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. As I told Pete Hegseth a few minutes ago when he was on in the last hour, it does seem to me when I look at the numbers that the numbers are tightening just a little bit. I mean, the general election numbers, Emerson has Trump up by 1 general election number. That's a popular vote number. Then Marquette has Trump up by 3. Then there's this wild Rasmussen report that has Trump by 8, up by 8. But the numbers, when you look at battleground states especially, Trump is leading, and I think 6 out of the 7 right now, but the numbers are getting tighter. So I think as we go further and further into this election cycle, the Biden administration is going to be getting desperate because the economy is not turning around the way they thought it was going to turn around. And I think a lot of people are going to be sitting and thinking about 2 things: immigration, which they're angry about, and inflation, which they're worried about. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
A violent afternoon in Philadelphia. 3 people shot. A Metro school teacher aide charged in a student's assault, and looking at some local polling numbers here in Tennessee. 530 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Morey's wide, wacky world of sports. And now, without further ado, the man who brings us all the news we need to know about sports, the one, the only, Mac Morey, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Hump Day edition. Out with the college basketball.
We're done with that.
Done with that. We got other things going now after this singer.
We got, as they say, and you'll understand the pun. We got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
we got catfish to fry, baby.
Come on, baby. The Preds are in the playoffs. Hit it, Weber.
Throw that catfish down, son, before they drop the puck.
Come on.
Yeah. Throw that catfish down, son. It'll bring you lots of luck. Throw that catfish down, son. It's time to start the fun. Catfish down, son. We can win another one.
Yeah, they called it a rebuilding season this year. They didn't know what was going to happen. Predators were deemed sellers at the trade deadline, and they put all that to a halt very, very quickly. The Predators clinched a playoff spot last night. They needed 1 point. 1 point to clinch a playoff spot. They were down 3-1 last night to the Winnipeg Jets. I'm watching the game with my brothers. I'm doing something else. I look away for 1 second. It's 3-2. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, let me lock in. 30 seconds later, 3-3. They scored. They tied the game up in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes.
Wow.
And all it takes to get a point is to go to overtime. If you lose the overtime game, you still get
a point.
Rewarded that
Still
point.
get a point. That's
yes,
right.
and that's all they needed as long as you don't pull your goalie. If you go no goalie, then you don't get the point. But they did not do that. They secured the point. They do lose the overall game 4-3 to Winnipeg Jets. It's a good team, the Jets. But the Predators locked in now for the playoffs with 3 games remaining in the season. Now they are in the first wild card spot ahead of the Vegas Knights. They have a 3-point lead on Vegas. So in these last 3 games, it's kind of important just to maintain that lead and get that wild card spot. The Preds are guaranteed 2 playoff games or 2 home playoff games. So that's exciting, right? We are going to have playoff hockey right here in Music City.
Who needs a rebuild?
Come on, get out of here. So this is a young, just extremely athletic team that has ignited on offense. I mean, defensively, they're solid, but they can score. I mean, that is not an anomaly what happened last night against Winnipeg, 2 goals in a matter of minutes. In this run these past couple months, I mean, the offense can just get going in a matter of seconds, and that's the most fun hockey. And it feels like when they get in an overtime 3-on-3 situation or a power play situation, it feels like they're capitalizing more often than not. They've got the Blackhawks Friday in Chicago. They'll come back to Bridgestone here Saturday to take on the Blue Jackets. I'll be at that game, very excited. And then they'll take on the Penguins in Pittsburgh for their last game of the season. So. A couple games here left, and then playoffs will start. Looking at the Western Conference, you've got Dallas, Colorado, and then Winnipeg, the aforementioned Winnipeg Jets, 1-2-3 with Vancouver, Edmonton, and Los Angeles in the Pacific 1-2-3 spots. So it looks like the Predators have a good chance of playing Vancouver or Dallas. Will be.
You know, I saw this statistic, and I didn't really realize how successful this franchise is overall. They've made the playoff 9 times in the past 10 seasons.
Wow.
And 16 times in the past 20 years.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That's incredible, man.
Especially for a team that, you know, whenever hockey came to Nashville, it wasn't taken very seriously. People were like, oh, come on, you know, hockey in the South, hockey in Tennessee. But, you know, I'm telling you, this organization has put itself in a position over the last 20 years, like you just said, Brian, where they're going to compete. And they have almost every year.
Not only do they play decent hockey, I mean, it is a great entertainment
fun.
Absolutely.
So
event.
fun.
When you go to a hockey game,
First
I mean,
class.
you're going to be entertained. You're going to have a good time. You're going to walk away smiling.
Yeah.
You know, even if they didn't go your way, you will have enjoyed yourself, and that's what they make it a great experience for the fan. And I really am big on the Predators. I think it's awesome. I love to go to hockey games. I don't go that often, but I always enjoy it when I do go.
Yeah,
They've been able. Yeah. Go ahead, Weber.
I was just going to say, you never know who's going to, country star or other,
that's
star
true.
is going to show up at the game or sing the anthem or do the little, what is it they do?
I like it. I love it. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the thing where they, they have the celebrity
they have a
the
house band.
band.
So many people set in on the house band.
Yes. The Music City Ford Stage or whatever they call it. Yeah, that's super fun. You know, I went to a game, Brian, 10-1 we lost. It was right before the hot streak started. So I kind of feel responsible for the igniting of the
clearly your fault.
Yeah,
yeah. You can take the credit for them turning it around.
We lost 10-1 and it was a blast. Still had a great time. I mean, 10 goals were scored on us. Still had a great time. They've done a great job here at really rallying a whole city and a community together to not only really fall in love with a different sport, but actually fall in love with a team. And I think they've been the most successful pro franchise at doing that here in the mid-state area. So playoffs here just a couple weeks away. Very exciting. And then Masters starting tomorrow. We'll have that tomorrow at 5:25.
All right. So now let me just say, the Catfish song needs to be put on hold until
that was just a sneak preview.
Game. Just a little preview, a little clip of it. But we'll play the entire Catfish song. Throw That Catfish Down, Son is the title. Mm-hmm. And we'll do that just before the first playoff game. So it'll be a week from this Friday, right?
I think that's right.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. It is 31 minutes now. Time to go from sports to news. Here's the news with Mac Maury.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 67 degrees, a cloudy day in Music City. Showers, possible storms tonight. Latest traffic report, weather forecast 5 minutes away. A violent afternoon in Philadelphia. 3 people shot. Here's Derek Dennis.
Sheer panic in Philadelphia's Parkside neighborhood.
Just saw everybody just running and frantic.
Witnesses reporting multiple people shot at a large gathering celebrating Eid al-Fitr, the end of the holy month of Ramadan.
We were celebrating our religion and they took advantage of it.
Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel says 5 suspects were immediately taken into custody along with several guns, while victims were shot, including a teenager wounded by an officer.
A 15-year-old male who has a weapon.
And now a massive investigation is underway.
Back here in Tennessee right now, a Metro school teacher's aide was charged in a student's assault. Police say it happened in October. The classroom assistant just charged. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney filling us in.
Metro police say Sullivan Baker was working in a classroom here at Haynes Middle School when he attacked a student who wasn't listening to his instructions. The affidavit says Baker jacked the student up against a classroom wall while supporting another teacher. The student hit his head on the wall and had concussion symptoms.
Metro schools say Baker was immediately placed on administrative leave and resigned from his position in January. Here in Tennessee, a new poll shows Democratic State Rep Gloria Johnson has cut into Republican U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn's lead over her in the U.S. Senate race. Beacon Center says Blackburn's lead over Johnson down by 4 points. Blackburn still ahead of Johnson by 16%. Beacon Center says it surveyed 1,197 registered Tennessee voters for this poll. That's the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
Let me talk to you about King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood. Been in business for 25 years there as an independent agency. That is what you want when you're buying insurance. You don't want to buy from a company that just has one product they want to sell you. And no matter what you need, they're going to try to take that square peg and shove it into the round hole and make it work for you. But when you're an independent agency, guess what? You get to shop around. Shop around and find the best insurance, the one that really fits your need. And the end result of that is you get more insurance bang for your buck. And that's what you want, right? You want great coverage at a good cost. And they can find that for you because they're not wedded to one product. The other thing I love about them is that if you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're not going to get a hold of a call center. You're not going to get a phone tree. You're not going to get one of those recordings. Your call is important to us, when you know it really is not very important to you, or they'd actually answer the phone call. No, what's going to happen when you call King and Associates, you're going to get a real person who's going to answer the phone, and they will take care of your problem, put you in touch with somebody who can, right? They're the kings of multi-policy discounts, 20, 25, 30, 35%. Huge savings are possible. So what you need to do is get your royal review with King and Associates Insurance. Just log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, you'll get royal treatment and great rates.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, bringing you news and information you can use and, conservative talk between now and 7 o'clock. And, I say that because, I want you to know, I don't consider myself an up-the-middle guy anymore. There was a time when I worked in a newsroom and I felt my job was to go out each day and to try to be fair and balanced and play it up the middle as much as I was capable of doing it. It's an elusive goal for journalists to always be up the middle and completely unbiased. You bring a lot of biases to your work, even if they're unconscious biases. But I always tried. That was my goal. And then a few years ago, I decided that I was ready to walk through the revolving door away from news and into conservative talk radio where I would do commentary. I don't consider myself a newsman anymore. I used to have, big fights with people to say, what we do is we're not news people. We're commentators. We bring you news and information, but then we don't hesitate to tell you what we think of the news and information from a conservative vantage. That's what we do, and I make no bones about it. I am what I am, and I was what I was, but I see those two things as distinctly different. Being a news person, you're supposed to play it up the middle, but when you move into commentary and opinion, then you're allowed to offer your opinion if it is labeled as such, and we do that every hour. We tell you it's news and opinion. All right, so, having laid all that groundwork out, I want to talk about NPR, which has come under some scrutiny here in the last couple of days because of a fascinating article written by a guy named Uri Berliner, who is actually still employed by NPR, at least for now. He's written an essay, and it's about 15 pages long, in which he criticizes NPR as having lost its way. Now, I would say that I've thought for a long time that NPR had a definite liberal bent to it. And it irritates me because, especially when you consider what NPR is supposed to be, National Public Radio, which is, gets some of its funding through tax dollars. And so I never thought that if you were going to, first of all, I don't know that we need an NPR. There are plenty of places where, commercial radio could meet that need. I don't like the idea, quite frankly, that I have to compete against the government, as my competition. I believe in commercial radio. And by the way, this doesn't cost you a penny. NPR costs you a penny. It does. So you're paying for it, and what you get for your investment is a slanted point of view from my perspective. Well, this is what Uri Berliner has been saying for the last few days. He says, I've been at NPR for 25 years, and then the article goes on to say, here's how we lost America's trust. And he goes on to talk about, what NPR used to be. He said, let me just read this little line here. Back in 2011, although NPR's audience tilted a bit to the left, it still bore a resemblance to America at large. 26% of listeners described themselves as conservative, 23% as middle of the road, 37% as liberal. So, there were more liberals listening to NPR than there were conservative, but not by a huge number. By 2023, he says, the picture had completely changed. Only 11% of listeners to NPR described themselves as very or somewhat conservative, 21% as middle of the road, and 67% of listeners said they were very or somewhat liberal. They weren't losing conservatives, they were losing moderates and traditional liberals. And it was becoming a place where the liberal elite would go for its news and information. It wouldn't be a problem for an openly polemic news outlet serving a niche audience, but for NPR, which purports to consider all things, it's devastating for both its journalism and its business model. NPR is, I think, struggling right now, to be honest with you, as a result of this. So he talks about where things started to go awry. And he did an interview with a person by the name of Barry Weiss and talked about how, look, on a personal level, I didn't care one whit for Donald Trump. He doesn't care for him at all. But he said what I was shocked by is how openly in the newsrooms of NPR, people would voice their open disdain for Donald Trump and talk about how their coverage should cover and should not cover certain things because we don't want to help Trump. Take a listen to this. Is about maybe 2 minutes of a much longer interview.
Doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
It will have a temporary or transitory
excuse me,
impact.
I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong one. Here it is, and I apologize for that. One more time. Here it is, Barry Weiss with Uri Berliner.
Now, you, Uri, are not a fan of the former president, obviously.
Not at all.
You voted against him twice, but you had a problem with the way that NPR covered his presidency. Here's what you write in the essay. What began as a tough, straightforward coverage of a belligerent, truth-impaired president veered toward efforts to damage or topple his presidency. Tell me about what that looked like, Ori, on the inside.
Here was a president who, I believe was belligerent and ill-informed and not a good person by any standard measure of decency. But I think we developed a different standard of coverage for Trump than any other politician. And I think that led us to serious problems in our coverage. I mean, one of them was not so much about Trump, but connected to Trump was the Hunter Biden laptop, where, one of our top news managers, when the Post published this explosive story, said, we're not going to cover this. We're not going to cover stories that aren't stories. And we're not going to let our audience be distracted by this. And, this was right before the election. And, I remember a conversation with a group of us, and, one of the great journalist at NPR, someone who was very fair-minded, said, look, I'm glad we're not covering this because it could help Trump. And this was when I think things were going off the rails in terms of the basic standards of how we cover politicians and stories.
I want to just read that line to you because it's one of the more explosive lines in your essay. You say, I listened as one of NPR's best and most fair-minded journalists said it was good we weren't following the laptop story because it could help Trump. By that point in his presidency, how normalized had that sort of attitude become? Were you the only one, or were there other people there who heard a statement like that and thought, wait, what business am I in?
I really don't know. I mean, I think we do get siloed. NPR is a pretty big organization. I'm not there at all conversations and meetings, especially, covering politics. So I don't really know, but just sort of when it comes to the hallway discussions, it was just such a loathing of Trump that, look, I think that existed in every newsroom, that was just the way it was.
It was the way it was. And in fact, he says that among the employees at NPR in the newsroom, it's 87 Democrats and 0 Republicans. What does that tell you? You're not going to, when you get a group of people together who all view the world in exactly the same way, then you can't imagine that there's another way to look at the story. And this is what I think happens in Washington writ large among news journalists. Their kids all play on the same soccer fields. They all go to the same places. They go to same places for dinner. They go to the same places to hang out. They go to each other's homes for parties, and it becomes really cliquish. And when you surround yourself with people who have the same kind of economic background that you have, who have the same kind of education, you came from a liberal college perhaps, and you end up in a newsroom, you become myopic in your view of the world so that you can't even imagine that there is another viewpoint there. I found this to be true in many of the newsrooms that I worked in across the board, even in Texas, even in Alabama. I was in Mobile for a while, and there were people in the newsroom like that. When I got to Washington, D.C., although I worked for the local Fox affiliate and covered Capitol Hill, we had a newsroom full of people who were mostly liberal. One of my best friends was a guy named John. We used to get in some of the greatest debates, and they thought I was some kind of a creature from the Black Lagoon because I didn't see the world exactly the way they saw it. But they allowed me to function, and I tried to play it up the middle. And then I went to Fox News where, believe me when I say this, I know people laugh when I say it, but it's true. I worked for Brit Hume, and Brit Hume was my managing editor. And when I turned in my script for his approval, the only time I knew I was going to get my butt chewed out was if he didn't feel like I was playing it up the middle. Well, Brian, you've left out an important fact here, or you're not looking at this thing correctly. And he would point out that I wasn't perhaps telling both sides of the story fairly. And it's like I say, it's a goal, and you try to do your very best. But it was very much part of our culture in those days to do that. And so I have heard it, I've seen it, and I recognize it. It sounds very much like my experiences as a reporter in a lot of newsrooms around the country. But at NPR, it is absolutely taken to a new level and a new extreme. And I'm glad this guy has had the temerity to go out and talk about how they didn't want to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop. They were quick to jump on the story about Russian collusion, which we know turned out to be not a story at all. They didn't come back and clean it up either. They never came back and retracted their reporting. They just simply said, oops, well, let's not talk about that. Let's move on. Nothing to see here. I'm glad he's come forward. I have a feeling he won't be there very long. Very quickly, I thought this was interesting. Juan Williams, who's an old colleague of mine from Fox News, again, an opinion giver now, he was fired from NPR in 2010 because he made appearances on Fox, and they didn't like what he would say on Fox. And he says he's not surprised by this at all. He says it is exactly what he remembers, and he said because he was on Fox News, that NPR cut ties with this analyst, with Juan. He said, I don't think I'm a wild-eyed conservative, but they thought I was too conservative a black guy for their kind of company. He recognizes what he hears in this story as well. It's now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. One of the things I love about Genesis Diamonds is the laid-back feel, the vibe, the relaxed feeling you get when you walk in, because there are no commissioned salespeople at Genesis. Never 1 ounce of pressure or intimidation. If you are a diamond expert or if you don't know anything about diamonds, they will make you feel at home and at ease. And you can see a wide array of GIA-certified diamonds in all price ranges, every shape. Or if you're looking for lab-grown diamonds, Genesis has them as well at prices way below what others sell them for. When it comes to the ring, Genesis has the ring the designers that other stores can't even get close to. All the top brands from trusted, renowned designers like Tacori and Verrazio. So this is in addition to free service for life on any purchase, designer jewelers that you can't find at other stores, a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee, and an incredible selection of pristine luxury pre-owned Rolexes as well. Rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, colored gemstone jewelry, all at prices other stores only dream they could offer. There are 2 locations. Be sure you go by and say hello. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 66 degrees, a cloudy one in Nashville. Showers expected throughout Middle Tennessee, as well as a chance of some thunderstorms here tonight, headed into tomorrow. Wet day or two ahead of us. Traffic, weather forecast, 5 minutes away. A violent afternoon in Philadelphia. 3 people were shot. Derek Dennis filling us in.
The shots ringing out at a park in Philadelphia's Parkside neighborhood during a celebration marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan. There were multiple shooting victims, many of them said to be between 15 and 21 years old, including a 15-year-old with a gun who was shot by a responding officer.
We have 5 individuals under arrest, 4 who were carrying weapons, as well as the individual that our police officer fired and struck.
Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel, he says several guns have been recovered as investigators combed the scene.
Possible legislation in Tennessee. The bill that passed the Senate yesterday that would allow teachers to carry guns in school would not notify parents which teachers are carrying firearms. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik gives us a detailed description of the bill.
If passed, a staff member each year must get 40 hours of training, a background check, and a psychological evaluation. The director of schools, principal, and chief of the law enforcement agency would also have to approve that person to conceal carry. If a teacher or staff member did shoot, the liability would be on that individual, not the school or district. This bill brought dozens of parents to the Capitol yesterday. They rebelled after lawmakers kicked them out of the gallery for causing disruptions.
The proposal would allow one employee to carry a gun for every 75 students at the school. That means a school with 1,050 students may have 14 school staff members carrying concealed firearms. That bill passed the Senate yesterday and now heads over to the Tennessee House. An active Amber Alert in Missouri may have connections to Tennessee. The TBI saying an Amber Alert was issued for 3-year-old Isaiah Laurent. The toddler is believed to be with Donald Laurent and traveling through Tennessee en route to Alabama. They have now released a picture of Isaiah. The suspect vehicle, a white Mercury sedan with an Alabama tag, 50824-2P. He has arm tattoos on both arms. Anyone who sees this vehicle should call 911. And will Kevin Costner be back for the final half season of Yellowstone? It appears there is some hope. Jason Nathanson.
Yellowstone, one of the most popular shows on TV, returns later this year for the second half of its 5th and final season, and we thought star Kevin Costner wasn't going to be a part of it. He and show creator Taylor Sheridan apparently had creative and financial differences. But in his first public comments on the matter, Costner is opening the door to a return.
I'd like to be able to do it, but we haven't been able to. I'm not sure how it's being worked out.
He tells Entertainment Tonight he loved making the series.
Maybe this will circle back to me. If it does, and I feel really comfortable with it, I'd love to do it.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Well, good evening, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour, almost 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for, well, the remainder of this hour. And then at 7 o'clock, they'll do the news. And then at 7:05 or so, Mark Levin will take over. And we'll continue cranking here on Super Talk 99.7, for the entire evening. I mean, there's just more good commentary to come. Just hang around here. If you're on the way home, let's get you home safely. Gloomy day. We did hit 70 degrees today, so it wasn't too bad here in bucolic Watertown. But it's gloomy. I'm ready for some more. I think, do we have another day of this, or does it get better? I haven't even looked.
I think tomorrow's going to be another cloudy day, but I think things improve after that. I think this weekend is just going to be like top-notch A+.
Well, hold on a minute.
Mid-upper 70s, sunshine.
I got to look this up. Well, hold on. It's coming. Saturday, Friday. Well, I have Friday. I have mostly sunny.
Yep.
And 66.
Yeah, a little cooler.
Cloudy and rain tomorrow. 80% chance of rain tomorrow in Nashville. Friday, 66, but sunny. Saturday, sunny and 78. And boy, look at Sunday. Wow. Sunny and 81.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be out in the yard doing that. And then Monday we get back into cloudy again. I'm ready for it to be one or the other.
I'd rather have the sunshine on the weekends.
Yeah.
If I have to pick, right?
If you have to pick, yeah, for sure. I agree with you on that because, I want to take full advantage of getting out in the yard. And I tell you, with all this rain, boy, it's going to be a chore going through the grass.
Yeah, it's this time of year. You get a lot of rain. That grass is really going to grow, and the weeds too.
That's it. And then somebody had the bright idea to put fertilizer on the yard. So anyway, let's do a 2024 election update, because we've got some interesting things. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of numbers, but I do have a few general election numbers. And I remember, general election is popular vote. And it doesn't mean a whole lot because we don't decide elections on popular vote. It is possible to win the popular vote and not win the presidency because we have an electoral college system. More on that in a moment. But let's look at these general election numbers from Emerson. If the election were held today, Emerson says Trump would win by 1. If Marquette says if the election were held today, Trump would win by 3 in a 5-way race. And then Rasmussen reports they're way out there in a very positive way for Trump, saying that Trump will win the general election by 8 points, which seems a little high to me, but one way or the other, those are the numbers that we have available today. But talking about the Electoral College system, there is a weird couple of, I want to say it's Maine, and I know it's Nebraska, and I think Maine, do not have a winner-take-all electoral college system. Now, I screwed this story up the other day, and I had to go back and do some more research, and I have it correct in my mind now, so bear with me if I gave you bad information before. In Nebraska, it is a red state generally, but they do have one. The winner gets generally 2 electoral college votes. But if there's enough votes on the other side, they can get 1. All right? Because they have a different system. By the way, they have a lot of weird things in Nebraska. They have a unicameral legislature, which means there's only one body. That's weird. No House, no Senate. Just they call the state legislators senators, but there is no House. Just a Senate or a state legislature. And their General Assembly, is dominated by Republicans, although there are some Democrats. Now, having explained all that, let me give you this story from the Washington Times. Electoral system in deep red Nebraska could hand Biden a second term. Republicans are scrambling to change Nebraska's electoral voting system to prevent a scenario in which President Biden beats former President Donald Trump in November by way of the state's Democrat-leaning Omaha district. The conservative activist group Turning Point USA was rallying Tuesday in Omaha to pressure Governor Jim Pillen, a Republican, to call a special legislative session to try to change the state's quirky and it is quirky, electoral voting system. At the same time, Never Trump Republicans began running ads in the 2nd District to urge residents to call their state lawmakers and tell them to not make any changes. Influential conservative talk show host Mark Levin weighed in this week, urging listeners to call Mr. Governor Pillen and politely ask that he has called a special session to fix the Electoral College vote so that the winner of the popular vote in Nebraska wins all of the electoral votes. Nebraska is one of 2 states that awards presidential electoral college votes based on the winners of individual congressional districts. The unusual system, signed into Nebraska law only in 1991, could give Mr. Biden the 1 vote edge he needs to beat Trump, the GOP's presumptive nominee. Maine employs a similar system, and it allowed Trump in both 2016 and 2020 to snag one of the blue-leaning states' electoral college votes. The remaining 48 states use a winner-take-all system that awards electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the popular vote statewide. In Nebraska, 3 of the 5 electoral votes are awarded to winners in each of the 3 districts. 2 more are handed out to the presidential candidate who wins the most votes statewide. The formula in Nebraska made it possible for Mr. Biden to win 1 of the state's 5 electoral votes in 2020, thanks to Omaha's Democrat-leaning 2nd congressional district. That is Omaha. Republicans fear a repeat in Omaha could hand Mr. Biden a 2nd term if he holds on to Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which are part of the blue wall of states that Democrats traditionally win. Even if Mr. Trump flips Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada and holds on to Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, Biden would eke out a 270 to 268 electoral college win if Nebraska's 2nd district votes for him as it did in 2020. You following me? Changing the state's rules to match most of the rest of the country would likely give Mr. Trump all 5 of the state's electoral votes and leave the electoral vote count tied 269 to 269. In the event of a tie, the presidential election will be decided in a contingent election conducted by newly elected members of the House, where Republicans are clinging to a bare majority that could flip to Democrat control in November. The Senate, whose majority could end up in the hands of Republicans, will decide the vice presidency. So Charlie Kirk, who's the head of Turning Point USA, said Nebraska's Republicans vastly outnumber Democrats and lawmakers should convene in an emergency session and vote to block Mr. Biden from winning one of the state's electoral college votes. Joe Biden's best and most likely path to the White House is to hold the blue wall plus Nebraska's 2nd district. Biden's campaign knows this all too well, and the whole strategy hinges on this 1 electoral vote in Nebraska, a bright red state where Republicans outnumber Democrats 2-1. By the way, this 269 to 269 scenario is another reason why, boy, do Republicans need to hold on to the House. And I'm very worried about the House. I think the Republicans will take the Senate. As I've mentioned before, the math there is really very positive for Republicans this particular election cycle, as Democrats are defending more seats than are Republicans. But the House, we've got a razor-thin margin, and we really need to pick up the House. In case it comes 269 to 269, then the newly elected Congress would then decide who the president was. Wow. A bill to change the system to winner-take-all, sponsored by State Senator Lauren Lippincott, was blocked by the Nebraska legislature earlier this month. The session has adjourned for the year unless the governor summons the lawmakers back. Those who support the current split system say it forces candidates to pay attention to Nebraska voters who are often ignored in presidential elections. The split vote system does keep Nebraska from being a completely flyover state. Sherry St. Clair, government co-director for Nebraska's League of Women Voters, testified earlier this month in opposition to a bill that would change the law to winner take all. Governor Pillen supports returning Nebraska's electoral college to winner take all, but has not yet indicated he'll call a special session to try to change it. Lippincott said the current system dilutes the voice of rural voters by shifting the attention to higher population districts, but the legislature is wary of changing it. Presently, there are not enough votes to bring winner-take-all to passage, he told the Washington Times. We need to plan far ahead and recruit principled conservatives into office. This story written, by the way, by our good friend Susan Faricio over at the Washington Times. Very interesting potential scenario. Now, look, I'm hoping that Trump pulls off a win in Pennsylvania or Michigan, or maybe another state that normally has gone to Biden or gone to Democrats in the past. I think perhaps the one that he has a better chance of catching is Michigan, because, as you know, there are a great number of Muslim Americans who are not very happy with Joe Biden right now. That's why Joe Biden is pushing so hard for a ceasefire. He wants to take that issue off the table because the Muslim Americans, the Arab Americans in Michigan, there's about, I don't know, more than 100,000 of them that live in the Dearborn area, have indicated they cannot vote for Joe Biden because of his continued support for Israel. Isn't it interesting that the president's policy toward a lifelong, longtime ally of the United States is dependent upon his own political fortunes and not what's right for the country? Somebody ought to call him out on that. Okay, enough of that. Biden may not be on the Alabama or the Ohio ballot. And basically, there's two stories here. It's basically the same story. One is in the Washington Times, one's in the Epic Times. But it has to do with the fact that Joe Biden cannot be put on the ballot because of how late the Democrat convention is. Now, Alabama is a pretty reliable red state. He wasn't going to win in Alabama anyway. If he's not on the ballot in Alabama, it don't make no bit of difference because he was never going to win that state's electoral college votes. But Ohio, it's a closer question. It's a Republican state. It's a red state, but still, it could, it's at least something that could potentially happen. And the same thing, the Democrat convention kicks off on August 19th after the state deadline of August 7th to certify a presidential candidate. Now, will they make some changes? There are ways that could happen, but nobody seems to be moving toward that. Pretty interesting that the Democrats didn't think that one through when they scheduled their convention. I don't know. Finally, Democrats have been panicking about Joe Biden, and now they're panicking about the Senate. I'll just condense this down from redstate.com. Here's the basic part of this story. That, again, the current Senate map is extremely unfavorable for Senate Democrats. The most vulnerable of their numbers are up for re-election. And so if they lose the Senate, then a couple of things could happen. And the sign that the Democrats are worried about this come on two fronts. Number one, Chuck Schumer wants to table Alejandro Mayorkas's impeachment trial and be done with it. Now, I don't think Republicans are gonna let him do that, but one way or the other, that's what he wants to do because he just wants to get it off the table and move on. Why? Well, because there are Democrats who are running for re-election in the Senate who are going to have to squirm if they have to vote in something that's perceived as support for Mayorkas and the Biden immigration policies. The other thing is these calls that you're beginning to hear now for Sonia Sotomayor to step down from the Supreme Court so that Biden can make another nomination, and it can be considered while Democrats control the Senate. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to lose the Senate. And so even if Joe Biden wins, you're going to have to put forward a candidate that would be approved by a Republican Senate, perhaps. I don't think Biden's going to win. I don't think he's going to win. I think Trump's going to win the presidency, and Republicans are going to control the Senate. And that means that if Sotomayor or another liberal justice, something were to happen and they need to tender their resignation, it would be a Republican nominee, potentially, So, I mean, that just tells you how worried they are that they're pushing Sonia Sotomayor out the door early because they want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a 7-2 conservative court. 22 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, here's the thing to think about. There is no magic pill or no magic cream that you can apply that will magically change the condition of your spinal discs and take pressure off of your nerves. You have basically two choices, surgery or non-invasive spinal decompression. Now, when I was faced with this, I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, and it worked for me. Their state-of-the-art facilities and their high-tech equipment offer the latest non-surgical procedures. And getting better is important, so Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are offering half off spinal decompression treatment and half off their KT machine, and they're keeping prices at the 2023 level. What do you get for that? Well, for $23, you will go in and get an advanced report of the findings. They will review any previous information they have, MRIs if you got one. They'll look at x-rays. They'll talk about what they can do to make you feel better and make you feel better quickly. They'll give you a diagnosis and a plan. And I'm telling you, you will start to feel better quickly if past is prologue. I can tell you it worked for me. I think it will work for you. So listen, why don't you reach out to the Wellness Institute of Nashville, set up your appointment, see Dr. Mitchell, see Dr. Ashley as soon as possible, and get them to work up your plan. I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville, so call them today at 615-246-5009 and learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandison. I love My Patriot Supply. It's emergency food so you can care for your family no matter what. And today, we're fixing creamy chicken-flavored rice. And the thing I love about My Patriot Supply, it's easy. You just get the water, turn on the heat, and in minutes, we are ready to go. Now, this food lasts for 25 years in special packaging, and yes, it does taste great. And in just minutes, it's ready to eat. Patriots don't rely on the government to take care of their family in emergencies. It's up to you. Order right now and get $200 off a 3-month food kit. It's important to go to preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. That's preparewithmandis.com to get that great discount. Preparewithmandis.com. $200 off a 3-month food kit.
It's 27 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. And we are hopefully getting you home safely. Hope that things are going well for you on the highways and the byways. And I'm very excited because, I was talking about how the weather's going to be very nice this weekend. And this would be the perfect opportunity if I can just put in a good word for my little town.
All right, go ahead.
Well, Bucolic Watertown is a great little town. You may have heard me talk about Watertown and you go, I wonder what it's like there in Watertown. I wonder what Wilson sees in that little community. Well, I would ask you that you might want to come out this weekend because we got to do this twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. It's the mile-long yard sale.
Yeah.
Which actually turns into something like a 12-mile yard sale, actually, because people put their stuff out on the highway leading up to Watertown, which is about 12 miles from the interstate, about 11 miles, I think. So, you turn off I-40 and you head down toward Watertown. See, what I tell people is, you go out I-40 east, and then when you get to the dog food plant, turn right.
You can't miss it. You'll smell it.
You smell it. That's right.
Yep.
It's the dog food plant. And then, about 11 miles down the road, you're going to see a lot of people will put their stuff out. If they got a front yard that adjoins the highway, they just put their stuff out. People stop. I mean, and it runs from there all the way up to Watertown, about 11 miles. And then in Watertown proper, they do the actual mile-long yard sale.
The real yard sale.
Yeah. What I would suggest to you is come straight to Watertown. And then, if you want to take your time going back.
That's a pretty good idea, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do. But, the train is coming. They bring the train in. People come in on the train, and about 500 people come in for that. And then I'm told by I have a lot of friends now who are people who run little businesses there in Watertown, and I'm told it's like the train days and the yard sale are two of the big economic days here.
Oh, I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, big days. So, come on out and see what Bucolic Watertown is all about. Bring a lot of $1 bills because you don't want to hand somebody a 20 for some little trinket that you're going to buy on the side of the road, right? Yeah. If you pull out a wad full of 20s, guess what? The price is going to go up.
Oh, well, big spender.
That's right.
For you, the price is.
Yeah, that's right. But if you just have $3 or $4, that you can get a lot for $2, $3. So anyway, I hope that you will take advantage of it because the weather's going to be great on Saturday.
Yes, it will.
And really nice on Sunday, so you can still go home and mow the yard on Sunday.
Well, way to ruin the weekend.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't have time to get into this. I'll get into it in just a moment. When we come back after the news here with Mac Morey, we're going to talk about a meeting that took place today between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Speaker Mike Johnson. They're not seeing eye to eye, and apparently still are not after a meeting this afternoon. Details coming up after the news, 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
.637 on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for a few more minutes before we hand it over to the news, and then the news hands it over to Mark Levin. The great one will take over after the news at the top of the hour. I mentioned before the newscast at the bottom of the hour with Mac Morey that there was a meeting today between MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. This is important because, well, Greene has said that she filed a motion to vacate the speakership last month, and she said it was really more of a warning than a ticket. I think that's what she said. But basically, she indicated that she's done with Mike Johnson, who I think, from my perspective, may be one of the more conservative speakers of the House that we've had maybe since Newt Gingrich. I think he's a very conservative guy. Certainly, as a member of Congress, he was. But when you're the Speaker of the House and you have to work out something with the Senate, which is controlled by Democrats, and you have a president that's a Democrat as well. You don't really get to control the narrative too often. You can fight for certain things, but you don't often, unless you're willing to actually shut the sucker down. And by that I mean the government. You're never going to really win big time in budget negotiations. You can get some things, you can hold out for a while, but unless you're willing to shut the government down, then you're not really going to get everything that you wanted. The way that you control that now is to win both the House and the Senate. But he's got a razor thin margin. 1 or 2 votes is all he can afford to lose anytime. So, getting Republicans to agree on anything, it's sort of like herding cats to be Speaker of the House. You got to get all your cats in line. And if one cat is not in line, then you got a problem. So she said that she would, have this motion to vacate, and she hasn't said when she's going to pull the trigger on that. But she met with Johnson today. At the end, she said, "We didn't walk out with a deal. I explained to him, and that he acknowledged that as a Republican member of the House, I pretty much have the best view of how the base feels and what Republican voters want." She's ramped up pressure against Johnson over his handling of government funding, his pledge to bring Ukraine aid to the floor, and the reauthorization of the U.S. warrantless surveillance powers as contained in Section 702 of the FISA Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Shortly after a meeting, they moved on a rule to renew Section 702, and it failed after 19 Republicans joined Democrats in voting against it. And it's not clear how that's going to get resolved one way or the other. But she has differences of opinion, which I get. You can have a difference of opinion, but at some point, when you have such razor-thin margins, you don't need to be rocking the boat and calling for a motion to vacate, which further weakens your speaker. You need him to be as strong as he possibly can be, and I just don't think this is the right time. Now, look, I hear you. I hear many of you saying, "Well, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I hated it when he voted for that spending bill." He got some things in the spending bill, not everything. Look, it's an impossible position to be in when you're Speaker of the House, and you have a 1-vote margin. Again, I'm very concerned about what happens in the coming election in the House of Representatives. It concerns me a great deal. I think we're going to win the Senate, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to hold on to the House, and I think that'd be a doggone shame. I wish Republicans would get unified and quit fighting among themselves, and get as much as you can get. But you get a lot more, I think, when you're unified than when you're not unified. But in an environment where 1 or 2 people can derail unity of the entire caucus, I think it's a really difficult situation to be the Speaker of the House. And by the way, if they were to kick him out, I don't know there's anybody in the entire Congress who would want to be Speaker of the House. I mean, he's been there 6 months? Remember when we went through that whole thing with McCarthy? Who is going to sign up to be the next Speaker of the House? I can't imagine anybody would want to go through that. I live to fight another day is what I say, but one way or the other. Speaking of the Speaker of the House, GOP senators got a hold of Speaker Johnson and said, wait. Do not send forward the impeachment articles on Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, hold on a minute. See, the way it was shaping up, they were going to do that, I think, today, send him over to the Senate, and then Chuck Schumer was going to do this. He was going to, bring it up Thursday, and then pull some kind of legislative stunt to kill it dead, and then send everybody home for the weekend. And GOP senators said, "Wait a minute. We have some Democrats who are running for re-election right now in the Senate who are really going to have to squirm over this vote. Let's not just let them off the hook after a quick vote and then send everybody home for the weekend. Let's really put them to the test. Make them pay for this vote. And by the way, do everything we can to try to instill in the majority leader the fear that, if he doesn't actually consider the Mayorkas impeachment, that they're going to shut the sucker down. Now, here's the thing about the United States Senate. We talk about how divided government is, but in the United States Senate, the vast majority of business gets done by something called unanimous consent. And they say, without objection, and then, with no objection is heard, the matter is approved. That's the way they do a lot of things, including things like as mundane as reading the daily, what do you call it, the minutes from the previous day. The record, reading the record. Now, normally they say, approve the readings from the previous day, and they go, without objection, no objection is heard, it is so ordered. But if you want to slow things down, if you're a Republican and you want to grind that body to a screeching halt, all you have to do is say, excuse me, I would like the clerk to read the proceedings of the previous day. And some poor schlump has to get up to a microphone and start reading through hours and hours and hours and hours because objection was heard. See, that's the power of being in the Senate. One senator has the power to really grind the thing down. And if you got 10 or 12 out there, there's all kinds of things you can do to really shut the sucker down. So what's going to happen is Republicans are going to go to Chuck Schumer and say, if you don't take this up and seriously consider these articles of impeachment against Alejandro Mayorkas, we're going to shut you down, Chuck Schumer, and they can. It's a serious threat, and they can follow through on it. And you know what? This is different than shutting down the government. Shutting down the Senate, nobody cares. Many people would call it a blessing. Shut down the Senate. Oh, thank you, please do. But they can do it. And they can really, there are so many little tricks that you can pull in the Senate to shut down progress and slow the pace of progress to an absolute snail's crawl. Nobody really wants that, so they're going to try to bring pressure to bear on Chuck Schumer. And in the process, remember that you got a couple of Democrats who are running for re-election in Arizona, Nevada, for example, border states. Make them sweat a little bit about this vote, and make them defend their vote. Because I have a feeling most Americans right now would like to see Alejandro Mayorkas impeached. It's not going to be a rubber stamp, and it's not going to be done very quickly. And the fact that the Speaker got together with members of the Senate and worked this all out is a good sign. Again, pretty shrewd strategy, if you ask me. Here's another thing about the border situation. And I found this story very interesting from the Epoch Times. Illegal immigration cost American households hundreds of billions of dollars annually. You say, well, do I really have to pay for what is happening on the border? Yeah, you pay, because so many things, so many demands for government services are increased when you have people coming across the border by the millions. Illegal immigration weighs heavily on the wallets of hardworking American taxpayers to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Still, the Biden administration turns a blind eye to these fiscal strains, neglecting the toll on our economy, the structural integrity of our nation, and the safety of our citizens. Estimates suggest that illegal immigration costs each household in America about $1,000, adding up to more than $120 billion a year. Sources such as Newsweek hint the true cost may be even higher, possibly reaching $150 billion annually, an amount shared by both federal and state governments. In actuality, the financial impact could be much worse. The repercussions of illegal immigration cast long shadows on various aspects of our society. Heightened crime rates, to suppressed wages, to the depletion of taxpayer resources, Public services facing strain with illegal immigrants accessing emergency health care, enrolling their children in public schools that you pay for, and tapping into social welfare programs. Some argue their willingness to accept lower wages can even drive down earnings, leading to reduced tax revenues and an increased reliance on social welfare programs among low-wage workers, citizens, and legal residents alike. Even our property tax is paying for illegal immigrants. This generational problem demands pragmatic consideration and competent leadership, writes the Epoch Times. To exacerbate matters further, if illegal immigrants operate solely within cash transactions, much of their income is undocumented. That is why advocates for measures such as Fair Tax Act, which replaces income tax with a consumption tax, ensuring revenue from cash transaction is taxed. Proponents argue that illegal immigrants are paying into our tax system and even our Social Security system, but it's hard to tell the difference between fact and fiction. The bottom line is that illegal immigration cost you and your family, if this article is correct, and I think it's probably not far off the mark, about $1,000. And everything that you put your money into the government is being taxed. And by taxed, I don't mean the government's not being taxed like paying taxes. It's being strained, taxed by the additional resources that it needs to give to people who are not paying income tax. So it really does have an impact on government services. It strains our government. It creates all the other problems such as fentanyl and crime and human trafficking and all the other things that we have, not to mention the fact that we don't really have a secure border. We don't really have a border at all. So all of these things actually do add up over time. But if you think that you're not paying for the illegal immigration problem, you need to think again. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your health care is delivered without red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Smart Care plans make it even more affordable, starting at only $69 a month. And you get free office visits for that for an entire year, free basic labs for an entire year. You see, Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of a condition, not just the symptoms, using a comprehensive, functional approach. And by seeing you the same or the next day, you're treated at your convenience. See, Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, it is comprehensive, and it's convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. By the way, nice people. Main Street in Franklin, that's where it's located. Here's the number, 615-599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule an appointment.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.